Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
For, you know, what they want to discuss and how they want to discuss it, right? There are a lot more venues opened up on Discord. So now there's like a place for everybody, so to say, you follow me?
Yeah, like
But
at
they still come here.
Pandas.
Like they still come
Nice.
here, like but they don't. Yeah, I don't know. Like even on our server, people don't want to like tolerate the anti arguments, you know what I'm saying? Just like you
Yeah.
guys on the show, you guys don't want to tolerate that either anymore. It's like we've been through that how many times already? So now it's more about having a server where we can get together and talk about this stuff where we can't talk about it otherwise in the world, right? So
Yeah,
yesterday was a good chat. People were just
I
doing
give
just
up.
that. Go on.
It seemed like every time we started talking together, so I'm going to give up from now on. Anyway, over at Gem Pandas, I noticed there was more than 40 people there. I was counting, and I recognized 25 people that have pretty much passed through this show. So that's what I said to them. I said, if you've got all of this locked down proof, and we have sixth grade science, and you have all this information, why would you not want to come on Nathan's show and take down a champ?
Well, people still come. I notice new people come now, right? But they may be shy to get on the show right away and stuff like that. But I notice there's like a gate opening for like new people, not just the same old. So that's going to be interesting going forward. But the thing with new people going forward is we're going to be going back to like the 2015 stuff, right? Because that's where new people are at, right? They start at like very, very basic stuff.
Yeah, they're gonna be going.
So,
They're gonna be good. You're gonna be hearing a lot of space. You're gonna be hearing a lot of that nonsense. Because they're all just coming into it. Look, how many times do people come into it? They say, "Oh, prove it is not flat." Sunsets.
right.
It's like you shake your head like, where you been for 8 years?
Well,
Is that the 10th man? Is he rising?
Yeah, I'm here.
morning,
you?
Kent.
Good morning.
Looks like you need tea or coffee too.
No,
Oh,
I just
God. I've been up for an hour reading, so I'm just tired. I walked
I got
7 miles yesterday carrying my golf bag, and I'm exhausted.
you walk 7 miles carrying a golf bag.
Well, when you walk a golf course, you usually clock 6 to 7, maybe even. It depends how long the course is, but that's about how much you walk. Do 18 holes of golf, so it's my first time golfing this year on the course, and since November of last year. So I'm out of shape and I'm exhausted.
So let me ask you a question. Is it true? Because my cousin said to me, he said, cuz, and he just got done playing golf, like he started getting into it. He said, if God was to play a sport, it would be golf. Is that the effect it has on you?
No, that's the first time I've ever heard that, actually.
Well, compared to all the other sports, you know what I mean, like football and baseball. He's played them all.
Yeah, but to bring God into the level of our folly is a joke. I mean, it's addicting if you try and put this little ball in the hole and you got to hit it hundreds of yards and try to keep the low score. It's very addicting if you're competitive.
I think that's what he meant. He's not bringing God in. He's just saying, I'm telling you, if God was going to play a sport, it would be golf.
I still don't know the premise of it.
It must be a New York thing because I understood what he meant right away.
No, I know what it means. I just don't see the connection where you would bring God to play a man-made sport.
He's not Christian. Well, he's you know, he's Roman Catholic, but he's not a born again believer.
Roboting one deck.
No, it's worse than that.
You heard that yesterday. That was funny.
That's how I felt after golf. Yeah, it's worse than that.
But yeah, Neil,
It's even worse
Discord
than
is
that.
but Discord is a lot less toxic now. It's a lot cleaner. So now
Oh,
building upon this is going to be good. So now as this gets momentum and we just keep it like a nice clean place, you know, where people can focus on their arguments more, or
Amen.
just talking about the the things we normally can't talk about elsewhere.
why do you say that? It's less toxic. What happened?
Well, it used to be a lot more toxic before because we like certain
certain
characters
people
needed to
not
be removed. Certain characters needed
okay.
to
So
be
certain
removed,
people
right?
aren't here then. Sorry.
Yeah, and then
So,
because if you let some stuff slide by, then it'll just kind of set the mood for everything else, right? So
so you got rid of the
but
troublemakers who were toxic, and it's a much better place.
that's one of them things. Let's just say that.
That's what you just said.
I did say that, but that's one of the things. Yeah.
Well, that was always the case. The troublemakers always cause trouble. It's like, okay, if you don't behave, watch your language, be courteous to the other person, then we're going to remove you. Finally, they got removed, and it's a much better place.
Yeah. And some people I gave like tons of chances, like over a dozen times. I'm like, I'm talking like ban, reinstated, ban, reinstated, ban, reinstated, and it's like, yeah, they don't learn or they don't want to listen. They just want to do what
Right.
they want to do, and it's like you can't have it like that. So it's not
Well,
like I don't give people chances
you had
either.
the patience. At least you had the patience. Gave them. They got no excuse now because you. How many times can you get banned?
Oh, seems like a lot.
Yeah, but it's like a teacher with a few trouble kids who cause chaos in the class. So she's got to 35 students or whatever the number of students are, so they can learn the lesson for the day. And then you got some troublemakers. So we grew up with this. Go to the back of the class. Go see the principal. It's like
I wish it was like that. We had nuns that kicked our butts, boy.
You say
Yeah.
nuns?
Yes, nuns.
You went to like a school with nuns as teachers or
He
something?
went to he
Roman
went to
Catholic
parochial
school,
school, Catholic school.
St. Nicholas Elementary School, and it seemed so huge. I went back there like last time I was in the city. I'm like, wow, I thought this place was big. It's tiny.
Well, in Canada, I went to a Catholic school too. I mean, I think all like Christian schools are Catholic in Canada, aren't they? Like, I don't know. Seems like that's all I see. But I went to a Christian school too. It was Catholic. I don't remember seeing nuns in Canada. It's just when we eventually went to high school, all the Christian kids, they have uniforms compared to the public schools not having uniforms. And of course, we went to church every once in a while.
Oh, they were when I grew up it wasn't long, but in the Catholic school, the nuns were fierce, man. They were like they're rulers, and
Yep.
it's just like they just beat the crap out of you, basically.
If you wrote, listen to this, back in the day, Tent, if you were left-handed, because I worked with a guy, this guy Grover. He was in his late 60s. This is in 96, 97. He said they beat him until he wrote right-handed because he was left-handed. They consider, if you were left-handed, they considered you of the devil.
And now he's much sought after in the National Baseball League because he can pitch left-handed. So
No, he can't. Yeah, exactly. But I was like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, they beat you if you were left-handed and they forced you to write right-handed. That's insane.
no, if that kind of, I mean, can you imagine that kind of stuff today?
Yeah, we had a nun called Sister Philomena, and if you got into trouble for whatever reason, you had to go and see the Sister Philomena, and she had this big leather strap, and you just had to. She give you 12 straps on the hand light, and you came out. Your hand was red raw. But it's like she actually enjoyed doing it when she was doing it. I had to take the pain of that a few times.
Yeah. So how did yesterday's show go? I had to leave early. Did you guys finish the whole show, the review?
Yeah, as much as we needed to. By the time you've heard the third or fourth, use of maths instead of science, there wasn't a great deal else to do.
I mean, it was just stark what they were doing, right? It's all math, and it's like it's so obvious. Today, I have a double header, but you may want to do the first. I'm trying to see which one to give you first, and it's a little different take. The first guy is, and you've seen this video. It's an older one, and it was sent to me, and I said, "Wow, this would be good with this other one." So they're both new. One is older, but fits with the new one that just came out. So the first one's going to be a guy who's familiar with the Hasselblad camera, and he does that YouTube video where he talks about impossible for that to have been on the moon's surface as they claimed, and he goes through the reasons why the Hasselblad camera could not have been the camera that the Apollo 11 missions used, and so forth. The second one is how can I put it? It's a political show, whatever you want to say like that, that gives commentary on what's going on in the world. And I think it's labeled "Stop, Make It Stop." And they're trying to say this whole flat Earth thing, make it stop. So, but they do bring up the Hasselblad camera in that show. So this is why I want to play the photographer who tells you the ins and outs of the Hasselblad, and you comment on it. And it's very favorable to our side, but at least you can comment on it. And then the second one is the guy make it stop, meaning you flat earthers make it stop, but then he references the Hasselblad camera that the guy said couldn't work on the moon.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, by the way, 10th. I don't know if you want to drop and rejoin.
Yeah, I'll drop and rejoin. I'll post that for you.
Thanks.
We're gonna start talking or what?
It's still a bit dodgy.
Wow, just got this internet.
Hey, that reminds me when you said make it stop. It reminds you of that movie, The Exorcist. Remember when she did, Mother, make it stop? What was wrong with my mother? She took me and like 15 kids from the neighborhood to see that. I was like 11 years old, 12 years old. I mean, we begged her and broke her chops, but looking back on it, wow.
But we can make out what you're saying, 10th.
Yeah, is it still dodgy? My goodness, I just switched internet.
It's better. It's better.
Okay. Good. All right, I'm gonna post those in sequence, and one is you should probably start in the pre-show.
Nah,
With the moon photo.
we'll start on them live. We'll get the reaction from.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do them live.
All right, no problem.
Oh, I thought you fell out. I didn't. You dropped out?
Yeah, he did.
I must be having bad internet too then, because I didn't even know that.
No, I'm here. I'm just not talking.
Well, he already rejoined. Yeah, he did that a while back. He's not going to do it again.
I used to walk about 15 miles when I had my last game of golf, and it was mainly in the rough and the wooded areas, walking around in circles, trying to find my ball.
When I was caddying, I used to do it for 4 days in a row with a 70-pound bag. But that was a while ago.
Hey, Tent, I thought they had caddies for that.
Yeah, I'm my own caddy. I'm playing and I'm walking because I like to exercise.
There's some nice golf courses here. I see them all the time when I'm driving.
The problem was it was the first day I did it in a long time. And I shake. So
Not that I'm a good player or anything, or far from it, but the best games I've had in the past is when I threw my driver and my 3-wood away and just used like a 5-iron off the tees and that to keep them straight, because I used to try and whack it with the driver and it just went everywhere. And this guy was with, he said, just get rid of your driver, get rid of that 3-wood, and just maybe use your 5-iron off the tee. And I did that a couple of games, and I played a lot better.
Thought you were going to finish it with, now look at me. That would have been the right
I remember.
finish, but anyway.
I remember the Irish. Sorry, I remember the Irish guys I worked with. Every weekend they talking about going to play pitch and putt, pitch and putt, pitch and putt.
What about bocce ball, man? I guess you have to be Italian to know that one.
All the wise guys in Brooklyn used to play the bocce ball. The old time wise guys, you'd see them in the park. There's always a couple of bocce ball courts there.
Yeah, anytime
Not
we
the
have a
younger
family
ones, the
party.
older guys.
Right. Yeah, anytime we have a family party, that's what's going on in the backyard. A shit ton of wine drinking and bocce ball.
you got to be careful with them old time Italian wine you're drinking because they got a lot of feet in that.
Yeah, they got the big bottles. I don't even know what the fuck it's called. It's like this big old, looks like 2-gallon glass bottle of wine.
That's the ones that they made with their feet.
The
You
best
buy,
wine
did
I
you
had.
buy it by a
many-
liter or did you buy it by a shoe size?
We used to get a
Speaking of-
nice Italian wine years ago. In the UK, we have what you call an ice cream man. He drives around in a van selling ice cream for the kids. He pulls up in different streets and he has music playing. The kids run out and get their ice cream and ice lollies. This particular one called Angelo, this Italian guy, he didn't only sell ice lollies. He used to sell like cigarettes from Europe, and he used to sell wine and that for the adults. And we used to buy this cart. It was a carton of wine, and I think at the time I was paying him £1 for a litre, and it was the best wine you've ever had, and it blew your mind. He was a good ice cream man. Him.
Hey, sounds like a good ice cream, man. A carton of wine?
Yeah, it was in a wooden, like you'd get orange or I don't know, so in a carton, a cardboard carton that you'd use scissors to open it. That's that's what it was. But he used to bring it back from Italy and say £1 for a litre.
Yeah, the
The
ice
best-
cream man. I remember the ice cream man. Mr.
The best
Softy.
is the best is when you go to the park, like on a Saturday or Sunday, the kids are playing European soccer, football, and all of a sudden the grandpa, the dad, whoever starts getting out there with their Italian dress shoes and playing soccer with black socks. Oh, classic.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at how quick some of these old guys can run as soon as a soccer ball comes out. Fuck, blew my mind.
But yeah, they see the kids playing and they're not dressed for it, but they say, "Man, I could go do that." And dress shoes, and they're good.
I tried to get in a soccer game when I went to Italy with a bunch of the family over there, thinking that I was in my prime state and I was gonna do something. Boy, was I wrong.
Hey,
Fucking
listen,
old guys dusted me.
you go to a construction site anywhere, even in Alabama, you pull out a soccer ball, lunchtime, about 100 Mexicans are all over it.
Yeah.
Where's Gene? Is Gene really Mexican?
He's probably playing soccer.
Right. Summertime. It's getting warmer. It was nice weather yesterday.
Have you posted these links,
Spring
Ted?
is here.
It's coming up now. You should have it now, Nathan.
Thanks. Which one do you want to do first? Moon photographs expert.
Yeah, he goes through the Hasselblad. Just to change up a little bit. Give Sabine a break.
This one's made by Bill Whittle, right?
Yeah, second one.
Okay.
It's going to be a classic one, I'm telling you, between the two. Not getting up a little bit earlier, reading some of the older books that were written in the 1600s and Because Neil would always say, how come nobody ever? And I'm saying, they did. So, obviously you have to go find them. So a lot of people stood up against the Copernicus and Galileo Galilei and all this. And there's a lot of writing out there to be found and read. And it's just cool to read and see. They pretty much say the same things we're saying, but they said it in the way they knew it then.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I'm saying there had to be people. But how did they see if they were fighting against it, then how were they able to pull it off? They had the numbers and the consensus and the means to propagate this whole heliocentric solar system garbage that we're still dealing with today.
No, when the education system gets a hold of a fallacious argument, it goes through all the departments and eventually all the students, much like the media controls anything that the eyes and ears of people could see is going to be setting the narrative for the next generation. So they all just went towards it, and they ushered in the age of so-called science, but it wasn't real science, it was pseudoscience. So they called it science because science was, very popular. And that's how it's consensus science.
Listen to what you just said, Ted. It's what? Consensus science?
Yeah.
Wow. So that's what it's all about.
They had a lot of opposition, and there's a lot of stuff written on it. It's been being fought from the day it came out to now. We're just a new version of it with refined arguments. And like I said, some of these arguments are there in the old too. Gas pressure, that kind of thing. I mean, that's there too. It's just written differently.
Meanwhile, science is a method, right?
Yeah. Hey, One Deck, did you write your It's Worse Than That officially?
He's not here. I think he dropped and hasn't been able to
Okay.
rejoin.
I hope he did, because that was a good one. Not that the other ones aren't great as well. But I mean the timing he had, because we just started the day before? It's worse than that. And then he's got a poem already. What's on the agenda for today?
Let's man just went
The
through it.
Hasselblad. An expert on the camera that was supposed to have been used on the moon gives a good breakdown, a really good breakdown. And then a show, more our times, real modern, political commentary show, Make It Stop, where he's talking about flat earthers, and then he brings up the Hasselblad camera. So I thought, maybe these two should go together.
So I heard that, but I missed the part where you said they were videos that you had in the review. I just heard the Make It Stop part and the moon cameras. What's up, Brian?
Yeah, well, Both were sent to me, so I said, "Oh, this is good." Hey, Brett,
Hey everybody, how are things?
it's great until you say it's worse than that. But we'll wait a little bit before that happens.
By the way, Brian, we had a little jab batch on one of your videos in chat. We were counting how many times you said right. How did you notice it? Until somebody
Say it a
brought it
lot.
up to me. Yeah. So we wanted a countdown. I think I got up to 23. Another guy said he was in the 30s. It was a great video, though, right?
I notice I say right
30.
in my videos too. I wonder if it's like the same context the way he does it. Because I'll
The
finish
thing is,
saying something and then I'll go right. Is that how you do it, Brian?
I can't remember how I do it, but I know I say it a lot. I think it's kind of like a self-conscious thing when I'm making the video. I think that's what it is. Unless I
I
say it
don't
all
think
the
about
time
it.
myself without realizing it.
Yeah, I don't think about it either. I just noticed it on replay. I'm like, huh. Do you watch your videos?
The other time I might listen back to some of them just to hear how the sound was. Other than that, but I don't notice. I don't notice what other people might notice. So
It's more of a communication word. Like if you want to say, "Do you agree with that?" or "Do you think that's correct?" or "Are you on board?" And you just say, it's too many words. I'll just say, "Right."
So you do it too then, 10th man. Okay.
Well,
I,
look at Sleeping Warrior. He's got the yeah. That's his thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's like,
Chocolate.
yeah,
Hold on. Chocolate's got one too. When somebody says, "Oh no, you go ahead, Chocolate," he'll go, "Nah, I just want to say." Always start off with, "Nah, I was just gonna say."
it's like when you're talking to somebody and they make a point, emphasizing something, and then they'll say, "Right." It's like, well, give me a chance, I'll answer, but you're answering for me. So it's like they want it to go. They want you involved in their conversation. So that worked out a lot.
Hey, Kent, I think I'm gonna waste a lot of gas today
Why?
because I refuse to use the GPS. I have to start remembering these things with my brain. I already made
What's
3
wrong?
wrong turns.
What's wrong with technology that was based on flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris?
Nothing. I need, look, I don't even know phone numbers anymore. It's ridiculous. We become too reliant on these little devices. I have to learn how to get around without the GPS. And I made 3 wrong turns already, but I'll get it.
Yeah, but you go first learn by maps, and then you go by memory. You got to download the memory first.
Yeah, but 10th, I've been here since the beginning of December. All right, so now, see, I just made a good turn here. Now I'm familiar with it. Now I know how to get back. Oh, I'm
You
sorry, I
think
spoke too soon.
wouldn't
I spoke too soon. It's a dead end. What the
wouldn't
freak?
wouldn't GPS help you memorize cities easier? Because then
That's
it's like
that's
a
what I'm
map
trying to
that's
tell them.
overhead.
That's what I'm trying to tell them. We used to have map books before we knew. We used to pull out Rand McNally and Thomas Brothers map.
Yeah, I remember the maps. Of course.
Well, that's like GPS.
But I should know where I'm going by now.
Yeah, but if you don't learn it, how do you know it?
My brother's got a great sense of direction. My brother Christopher.
Well, take him on your rides.
Well, he says that my father used to take him when he was like 9 or 10 years old. My father couldn't read or write. So he used to take him with him at 9 because they used to, if there was a fire, he would go do board ups. He would board up the houses for extra money, and he would take my brother Chris with him because he couldn't remember where he was going. Crazy, right?
You're one of those people that doesn't read the instructions, but starts putting things together and then has to go back and read the instructions.
No, actually, he doesn't. When he just doesn't even use the instructions. But he
You,
does.
you,
Oh
not
yeah,
him.
me. I don't touch it without reading the instructions. I did
Okay,
it one time, and I had to take it apart, and I had glue inside the little, knobs that you put in when you're building a piece of furniture. It was a disaster.
So why don't you read the instructions on the maps before you memorize it?
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Brian's Logic, Arwin, 10th Man, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
What's happening?
Oh, wow, what an enthusiastic bunch.
What a beginning.
What a great start. Wonderful, wonderful. Any evidence of axial
Buenos
rotation?
dias.
And don't all start saying hello when I've said how crap you all are and then started asking a housekeeping question. Come on, play the game.
Well, he was complaining.
Yeah, just do it. Let's just do it continually instead. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Hello. Negative.
Hello.
No, nada.
Oh, is that it? That's the answer I'm getting. Oh, wonderful.
Well, they've never proven that. They do a bunch of pendulum things to say, see? No, I don't see.
Any evidence of the R value then? Earth radius.
Well,
Not
that would be a
reality.
necessity.
It's presupposed.
I know it's presupposed, but is there any evidence of a physical measurement of an R value to base the premise that they're presupposing on?
Well, there's a guy who stood on top of a mountain and said he had a tangent line to the horizon, and that proved the R value.
Well, technically, you can't measure the radius. You could only measure the circumference and then calculate the radius. So, you're not going to dig to the center of the Earth and then put a ruler there, right?
How would you measure
And
the circumference then, Arwin?
I'm not sure if either one of you.
You just measure the flat plane and then presuppose it's a sphere.
Yeah. To measure an R value for a globe Earth, The only way you can do it is the way that Al-Biruni claimed to do it. Because obviously Eratosthenes, the way it was claimed he did it, you couldn't do it because he's using an elevation angle, which is a horizontal baseline. So between him and the GP point of the sun, that's not going to work. But if you want to measure the R value of a sphere, and you're actually on a sphere, then the only way to do it is via a tangent to the horizon. But the horizon has to be a geometric location, a geometric edge of that sphere. But it's not. The horizon is an optical location. It's not geometric. It's not consistent.
Well,
So,
it's still going to all on top of that. It's still also based on the assumption that the celestials are consistent and that therefore reliable in order to presuppose that it is spherical, right? On top of that measurement of a tangent. But the measurement of the tangent in itself wouldn't prove that the entire Earth would be spherical like that, even if you would find such a measured tangent, right?
well, it would
They use the
because
stars to claim that consistency because the stars will rotate consistently as you move a similar distance.
Above a flat
yeah,
plane.
but that's yeah.
I was
Yeah,
just going to say,
that's
he's talking about the consistency of the flat plane elevation angle measurements, giving you a consistency to convert it to spherical. That's what I just heard from Arwin. Because it's so consistently flat and you can always measure it, and the stars' positioning you can line up and predict for hundreds of years in advance. So therefore, because it's so predictably flat and the stars interact with that flat plane so consistently, you can make it a sphere, Arwin. Sorry, Brian, I just had to drop that in.
Well, that's another way of putting it, which is very sensible. I'm not even trying to be a Bowen here. It's just that the consistency of how the stars rotate as you move over the surface is a thing. Now, whether what you think
we got all that.
what you're walking
We
on
got
is
all that.
spherical or curved
we're
or
gonna get it
something,
for the third
the
time.
celestials are
Hold on.
consistent.
We got all that.
What do you mean it's a thing?
Hold on, Neil. I've interrupted Arwin after interrupting. I've interrupted Brian after interrupting Arwin to summarise his point, which is to say it's consistently flat, therefore you can consistently turn it into a sphere. But I'm sure Brian's itching to actually respond to it. It's me that interrupted. Sorry, Brian.
well, there's nothing to respond to. My point was different altogether. Is that if the Earth was a sphere, then the horizon has to be the geometric edge of that sphere. There is no way for it not to be, because the Earth can't have a non-geometric horizon on a sphere. It can't have that. So when Al-Biruni went up that mountain in Iran or wherever it was, or Afghanistan, to measure a dip angle to the horizon, if that horizon was in a horizontal with the water at the base of the mountain, which it was, and if that horizon moved further and closer to Al-Biruni, which it does, then the Earth is not a sphere. Because if the Earth was a sphere, that horizon could not do that. It would have to be at all times geometric.
Hey, Brian, did you ever read on the Al-Biruni thing why he went up to measure it? They made it a whole religious thing, whether he existed or not, that he would make sure that they were facing Mecca when they prayed. So that's why he went about performing this so-called measurement.
No, I never bothered with any of that. It was only the geometry I was interested in and the process. I never bothered with any. I know they said he was they call him the godfather of geodesy. So the guy could have been an absolute legend in reality, but they just hijacked his legendary status and claimed he did this stupid thing that he might never have done. Do you know what I mean? So the guy could have been very real and very smart and intelligent, but they just could have taken his persona, a public persona or a historical persona, and just hijacked it, because that's what they do with everything. Same with Eratosthenes. He could have been a very real person too, but what he did was not what they claimed he did. They just hijack everything. They hijack people. They hijack they hijack natural effects. They can't stop hijacking stuff because they have to.
Well, there's no proof that Al-Biruni actually believed it was a ball. He might have just done the measurement because he was ordered to do that or bought to do that, right? Just go there and measure that curve for us. Do the measurement for us. But he might have been like, yeah, okay, I'll measure your curve on this flat plane. Sure. He might have just known.
He still
No,
needed he still needed a horizontal at his eye line at the top of the mountain as a reference. So it's between two horizontals is the dip. It's like John says, it's a differential.
You know what? Real quick, speaking of that deception, I don't know if anybody else saw, but I have been viewing Globe Boy's TikTok things, and he has this thing where he calls himself proving that we don't know what we're talking about as far as the horizontal level, parallel to the baseline and everything. So he has this graphic, typical CGI illustration where he has a skyscrapers, like a bird's eye view of skyscrapers, and he has this supposedly linear horizontal line casting from a rooftop of a skyscraper parallel to the so-called horizon. And as he's taking that line out, they grow it where it goes up into the sky, as if to say that we're trying to claim that our parallel lines at any altitude does not go, our horizontal level baseline does not go parallel with the realistic flat baseline horizontal level of the sea and the terrain of the earth. So they basically take the line, the parallel line above, and they go and it looks like they're going straight, but they're actually taking it up in the sky in the clouds. You got to see it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna put it onto the into the main chat.
Yeah, this is.
Go on, Brian.
Just 1 second. Yeah. There's several problems there. Number one, the reason it's going up into the sky is because he's presuming that it's a globe, so it could not go up into the sky. Secondly, that idiot is arguing against celestial navigation, right? With a bubble sector.
Exactly.
And third, this guy is such a fool that he argued against the existence of angular size change. Things getting smaller with distance. Why don't waste your time with that guy? He's desperate. He's twisting and turning, trying to make himself relevant. I can't describe the level of idiot that this guy is.
Okay, we're going to get onto a couple of videos today. The first being "Make It Stop" by Bill Whittle. The channel's Bill Whittle. I don't know. Do we want to actually let this guy know we responded to him 10th?
Yeah, because he's in the political genre, but all of a sudden he jumped into the flat Earth, I think, here, and I thought you were going to go the other one first, but it's okay. You can go either way, I guess.
Either way, I mean, shout out to Godzilla 37. I went up the mountain, measured to the horizon, and now I know Jupiter is a gas giant. I mean, I skipped the bits in between. We can fill in those bits in the sequel, Unicorns in Space 2. Very good. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla 37. Speaking of support, or not necessarily super chats, but previously I still am actually technically running a GoFundMe campaign, which was for some very old studio amps that I bought back when I was a rep that were very expensive, really nice amps, but just got old and keep breaking. And so as a consequence, I ran a GoFundMe, which didn't do very well and was quickly usurped by a different GoFundMe for Chocolate Saying, not that I begrudge him in any way, I'm not moaning. But either way, that kind of fell on its arse and sort of stopped, which is a bit of a shame because it's something I'm stressing about because I just know they're going to go pop again, even though I've had them repaired numerous times. Anyway, the guy bought this passive PC that's sat right next to me now, making zero noise during all of the shows, which is fantastic. Dropped a fairly large chunk of cash on me yesterday, so I was actually able to order one of those amps, which is fantastic. So of the 3 amps that I'm hoping to replace, I've at least got one, which means that at the bare minimum, the show will always go on, providing that one doesn't go bang, which I would hope not, as it's brand new. But I ordered that yesterday. So if any of you did support that GoFundMe campaign and you thought, oh, I haven't heard anything about that, I have actually ordered one of those amplifiers now, which is great because it means that hopefully I'll get at least a couple of years at the very minimum out of those, which is more than I get out of the current amps that are about 13 years old, because they keep going bang, as I say. So I'm very, very pleased to Paul. Thank you very much indeed, Paul, who's actually one of the mods and he's in the Discord server at the moment. So really, really appreciate the support. It's things like that that give me such joy in doing the job, because it means I don't when it comes to things like this, they get sorted even when I'm absolutely penniless, which is the case here. so tempting to just keep this cash, but because I'm broke. But by the same token, it's like I know why I want that cash. Same reason I put in the GoFundMe campaign, which is to say, without that particular piece of equipment, if a couple of them go bang, I'm often in a position, or have been in the past, where I can't run the show. I haven't got enough amps to make the speakers work, to make the show work. And that's not the case this second, but it often is, and does go that way very quickly with old amplifiers. But anyway, I'm just very, very pleased to let you know that of the 3 I'm hoping to replace, at least I've ordered one of them. But that, I don't know if maybe one of the moderators can post the GoFundMe campaign, as I'm ideally hoping to replace all 3 of them. But that would be the absolute ideal, and at the minimum, what I was hoping to do, and did put this in the campaign, was to get at least one. So I know that the show will always be running, at least from an amplification point of view, instead of constantly churning bloody repairs that are really expensive. Anyway, thank you very much to Paul. Shout out to you, really appreciate it. And obviously another shout out to all of you who have supported the GoFundMe campaign up until now, as it has been basically successful. That is a success. As soon as I order something that is needed for the show, specifically for the show, I'm obviously over the moon, because it means one less thing to worry about in terms of a financial burden that the show is, which it is, unfortunately. It's just the way of these things. Anyway, thank you very much also again to Godzilla37 for the super chat. Right, unless there's any other reason, we'll get on with a bit of this Make It Stop video.
Well, guys, I want to do this one a little differently because I need some help on something here. Usually we have some issue to talk. It's something to talk about. And Steve, what are you thinking? Scott, what are you thinking? Well, I think this, and there we go. This one I think is going to need to be a little more back and forth, because it's been something I've been seeing a lot of, and it's really starting to worry me. Daily Wire.
When does this get in? Do I need a timestamp, or is that it for the intro 10th?
No, you need the whole context. Just stop because you have to, and then keep
when
going.
they released the first episodes of the Cold War, they put up on YouTube the first episode of Apollo 11, What We Saw, and they titled it, Did We Really Go to the Moon? That was not the original title of the segment, but they basically did it to get some traction. And I looked at the comments on this, and the first day was from Daily Wire viewers. They were the first to hear it, and they were just couldn't be nicer, just fantastic.
Hey, Bill, let's stop for a moment, because people watching this for the first.
Okay, who are they talking about? They're talking about somebody that didn't release a video under the title, Did We Go to the Moon? I'm a bit confused already.
First time. Bill created this series, Apollo 11.
Beg your pardon. Yes, sorry.
And
yes, for those of you who may not,
he hosted as well.
So 2019, Daily Wire asked me to do a history of they asked me to do something on the 50th anniversary of the moon landing in July of '69.
Just have a quick, while he's saying this, there's a different tramp stamp under this. Yeah? So
no, this is the guy who did that 50th anniversary, and he's mad about something he's going to bring up. That's why he shows people Make It Stop.
Okay. I'm just reading the tramp stamp. It says, Apollo moon landing project conducted by the US National Aeronautical and Space Administration in the 1960s and 70s. The Apollo program was announced in May 1961. But the choice among, and that's it. That's all the tramp stamp says. Doesn't really confirm, other than the title itself of moon landing with a hyphen. Doesn't say they did. It doesn't say they didn't. It's like a very bland tramp stamp. Just interesting.
So I did Apollo 11, What We Saw. I think it's the best work I ever did. I'm very proud of it. It was a 4-part series. They ran the first episode and titled it, Did the Moon Landing Occur, Yes or No?
Okay, let's just answer that. No, it didn't. Because to travel to the moon would involve travelling via the pressure that we all breathe, the gas, into an area of volume the gas isn't filling in violation of natural law, second law of thermodynamics to be specific. So you traverse the gas into the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum to then take a journey to the moon. No, that didn't happen. The entire journey was a second law of thermodynamics violation. There is no sky vacuum to travel to the moon through, so the Apollo moon landing mission is a complete sham. It's fake. It's obviously fake. You just have to look at the footage. You don't need to know the second law of thermodynamics to see that it's using backdrops and men on trapeze. High wire. That's what it is. It's a stage. It's very obviously a stage using very obvious 1960s and 70s stage technology.
Hello, my name's Nick, and I designed this lightweight tartan work shirt. Okay.
that episode is not all of the argument. There's a lot of argument in the following 3 episodes, but it's not the point, because it's not even really about the moon landing. But let me just tell you what happened. So the first day's comments were lovely, and then I checked them this morning, and somehow the moon landing never happened crowd got a hold of it. And there were a lot of negative comments about me, which
I can't understand the context of this sentence. The moon landing never happened, got a hold of it. Is that like a working title or a production company or a person? I don't understand. The way this guy speaks is terrible.
actually didn't bother me in this case. Usually they bother me, but this case, there was a bigger issue here. And it was just again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen. I was trying to find a common thread.
Okay. Okay, tell it.
Okay, you gotta realize he was the guy who put together the documentary and 4-part series about the moon landing. All of a sudden, in this comment section, people are saying it didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen. And he's prideful of his work, said it was the best he ever did. So he's about to react to it. And this is what makes this fantastic. You can't handle it.
Here.
Morning,
And
guys.
clearly the didn't happen crowd were being motivated by emotion, because the some of the evidence that they listed to support their never happened thing, I saw this 7 or 8 times. It didn't happen because who was holding the camera to film Neil coming down the ladder?
2015. Such a long time ago, it seems. Who's holding the camera? No. Get up to date with the flat earth debate, my friend. Second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, would be where they had to traverse. It's akin to saying, let's worry about who shot the lion lying on the altar in Narnia. How did they get that shot? No. How did they go through a wardrobe to get to Narnia? Well, the wardrobe is the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, oxymoron, air not expanding into a sky vacuum. That's the wardrobe. You have to go through the wardrobe, so you have to go through the gas pressure into the sky vacuum. Narnia is not real, and neither is outer space. Outer space is not a real place. So how can you traverse a fake place to get to Narnia, the moon in this case? Now, the moon's real, but getting to it via a sky vacuum isn't. As for who took the pictures,
You got me on that one, Scooter. I guess we weren't smart enough to figure that one out. You know, for those of you who are playing the home version, there's a little panel on one of the sides of the lunar module that popped open specifically to show this picture. So when that's your only evidence, and somebody says the chances of it were 6 trillion to 1, and we tried it 6 times, where'd you come up with that number?
So you're saying they
The
can't
600
imagine a selfie stick, basically?
he's saying that the Hasselblad camera that's on the front of the suits that they took the pictures with shouldn't work, from what I get gleaned so far. Likewise, you could say, how can you get a transmission from a joystick at control center in wherever it would be Cape Canaveral at the time to transmit a signal with delay via some satellite relay in Australia up to the moon to control the remote control camera to film them returning from the moon to the LEM, or LM, or whatever they call it, the orbiter. How did they get that shot? Well, they've got a whole bullshit narrative that's there to overcome these objections. Oh, well, we timed it and we didn't actually get most of the return images very well because we timed it badly. But one of them we got really well. We timed it really perfectly. And we tilt the camera, then 2, 5, 10 seconds later it receives the signal. Then it tilted the camera just as they were taking off. And you see the little bit of string that's pulling it up. It's just like, what a joke. If you attack it from this angle, there's always going to be some story that the liar can tell you. If you throw natural law at them, where are they going to go after that? Well, I'll tell you, because we've experienced it here on Flat Earth Debate. When you point out that the law of nature that is the second law of thermodynamics simply violates the idea of us having a sky vacuum, they'll say that the second law of thermodynamics, that's natural law, does not apply to the Earth model. That's what they'll tell you. I've been told it personally. So, what, this law of nature doesn't apply to our nature if we assume it's a ball? Yeah, nature still has the laws of nature applicable, though. Therefore, the space vacuum that you think that this journey is taking place in isn't real. That's it. That's the end of the argument. You can't argue with natural law or present some new story.
It's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention that because when I was thinking about the reply to this, right, I thought, have you ever taken a picture with a camera that you brought with you, set it up, set the timer, and then gotten in the picture? Have you ever appeared in a picture with your own camera? Have you ever started a camera and a video and then walked into frame? Have you ever done that too?
It ain't rocket science.
But look, I spent a lot of time.
What's his point? I don't get it.
Well,
Really?
What's
No,
his point?
this is great because he's in the begging of the question. He's already got people thinking, listen, you've done it with the selfie, right? So that all they had was this thing coming out of it doing the selfie of Neil walking down the ladder. He's already got you on the moon, a violation of the second law. This is a fantastic teardown that's going to happen soon.
Hold on. Can I? First of all, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Chocolate.
What I just heard, is he trying to set up the excuse of, oh, the camera was already set up before Neil got out of the spacecraft?
There was a pocket door on the side of the LEM, and it opened up, and the Hasselblad was there ready to go. It's a selfie. What's wrong? You do it all the time, Chocolate. Come on, get with it. We went to the moon.
Wow.
Sorry,
That's
but
terrible.
I don't disbelieve that. I've got no issue if you said to me, okay, we're going to send, let's say it's Antarctica. Doesn't matter what it is, but let's just say somewhere that we know to be remote and difficult to negotiate. Okay, fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to send a drone, a modern day drone, down to Antarctica. But inside the drone, we're going to put a man. And when it gets there, the drone will land, a camera will pop out the side, and it will film the man coming out, climbing down the ladder. Yeah, okay, I accept all of it. What's that you say? But this drone travelled through a wardrobe, through Narnia, and then landed. But we're going to worry about whether it could take a picture when it landed rather than whether or not it can traverse wardrobes and enter Narnia. Or in this case, traverse the gas pressure and enter space akin to Narnia. And I don't care whether or not the cameras can work. You can come up with all the stories in the world about how NASA were really clever. Look, they can put people in space. Do you not think they can take a selfie? Is maybe where this is going. And it's like, oh, maybe they can take selfies in very remote locations. So long as the remote locations are real. In this case, they're not.
But this is the point of this video, and what for people to learn is that they'll take something that is doable, they'll attach it to something that is not doable, and they already got you on the moon.
It's a type of fallacy called an affirming the consequent. It's a formal, logical fallacy. If P, then Q. Q, therefore P. If men can travel to the moon, then they'll be able to take selfies on the moon. Men have taken selfies on the moon. Therefore, men can go to the moon. That's the fallacy that's being employed in this regard. Like the one...
You know what's funny about
hold on. The fallacy being the one isn't necessarily connected to the other. Men's ability to take selfies, automated, off the side of a truck, by comparison, doesn't prove that the truck can go to Narnia. That's the point of the fallacy. So being able to take the picture, yeah, who cares? Go ahead, Chocolate.
I was just gonna say what's funny about that argument that you just made, right? Oh, they sent people to the moon. You don't think that they could take a selfie, right? But they reverse that when you bring up things like the ISS. Like when you ask for footage of the ISS being built while in space, because that's their claim, they'll reverse it and say, well, they don't have to show that to you. They don't have to film it. Why is there no film of the ISS being built while in space, while people are moving around at 17,500 miles per hour? Why is there no film? Oh, they don't need to. They don't have to do that. So they just reverse the claim whenever they want. Just an excuse.
I'm thinking about how I would debunk this, and I sent a text to Jeremy saying, dude, you ought to get the biggest moon landing denier in here and have a jury of our peers and just treat it like a court case. But this isn't the point. This isn't the point. And this is not what's upset me so much. What's upset me so much is that a consistent thread through this was that NASA has to be lying because NASA's part of the government, and the government always lies about everything, and therefore this couldn't possibly be real.
It's the wrong way around. No, that isn't the way around that this would work. the way it would work is people get wise to NASA lying based on evidence like the fact that you can't have a sky vacuum, and then realize that they are part of the government, and therefore there's a good chance the government are lying on multiple levels, therefore not to be trusted. So it's the effect after the cause rather than the cause after the effect, as he's detailed it. Because the effect is going to be people realizing that they've been lied to on a massive scale. Now, if you want evidence of this, go to Haunted House and watch Conspiracy Cats being interviewed and describing how he would have to contemplate the very nature of the lies the rest of the world has around it if it's true that the Earth is flat. Well, it's the same principle. If we find out that NASA are lying and can be demonstrably shown to be lying, then, by virtue of their connections, they and their connected, affiliated government base cannot be trusted. That's why we are suppressed. So he's kind of got he's got the right idea, but he's got it the wrong way around.
And to me, that sounds like people who would self-identify as conservatives. And I'm seeing a lot of this now. I'm seeing a lot.
Thank you, sir. Crap. When I tell you that you can't travel through a wardrobe, by analogy, because there is no wardrobe and there is no Narnia, and likewise, you can't travel through the gas pressure into a sky vacuum. It violates a law of nature. What are you going to do? Turn around and say, these people who refer to natural laws, they're just bloody liberals. Is that what you're going to do? Because it doesn't matter what I believe in politically when I use natural law to debunk the sky vacuum. It doesn't matter.
Nathan, would that be genetic fallacy?
Yes,
Origin of something?
Yes, in other words,
Okay,
demean the person who's giving you the argument in terms of their position or standing, rather than the argument itself.
Also, it just sounds emotional. Like when I got in kind of late, and the first thing I heard him say was that the guys that he's having this thing with, they're emotional. But you just heard him say it. This is upsetting me. This is very emotional for him. You could hear it in his voice. He almost sounds like he wants to cry.
Well, it's emotional because he was instructed to do the 50-year anniversary 4-part film series on Apollo 11. So it's his finest work. Chocolate.
Depends
His
when.
finest work.
How old is this video, Ten? Do you know offhand?
I have to look. I think it's recent.
3 days
so
ago.
you know why, right?
3 days ago.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. Because we are taking major steps in flat Earth debate, tearing down the walls, and it's what we're doing here that's causing all of this nonsense to go on. They have to prove their nonsense now. See, it's a threat. Flat Earth is a threat.
Could I just say that what annoys me the most about these types of videos with guys like this guy is they want to stand there like they're in a position of knowing knowledge and authority and tell you about what happened when they went to the moon. Like, you haven't got a clue. You couldn't tell me what's happening in El Salvador today, never mind what supposedly happened on the moon. Who do you think you are to stand there in some kind of a position of authority?
Let me answer. Who does he think he is? You know when people say, we went to the moon, he thinks he's the we.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
It's that sports mentality.
Yeah, so when you're saying, well, he's defending they, he's part of that they. He thinks when you attack the idea of a moon landing, you're attacking him personally because it's we, including him, that went to the moon. And how dare you decry my achievement and my work that I've put in documenting the bullshitters. Embarrassing.
Why does everybody...
Hold on a second. Shout out to Godzilla37. Shout out to Divergent Droid. Hope he's well. The chat misses him. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla.
I was just going to say, why does everybody, when it comes to the moon and the moon landing, why does everybody turn French with this we shit?
Because it's everybody being prideful of their work that they've done And because of the way they compartmentalized it in the first instance, there's plenty of people who feel that they have directly influenced going to the moon. The fact that we didn't go is inconsequential to the guy who's built a booster rocket or clever valve to operate the fuel or something like that. They've been a great engineer, they've done their job, and they're very proud of it. And why wouldn't they be? In terms of their technical prowess and achievements in engineering. You should go to the moon with it.
It's crazy because that's what they said to me on Jump Panda Saturday too. Told me take a look at how we went to the moon and stuff like that. Wow.
A lot of people who are normally sensible people whose knee-jerk reaction is to say that if
3 reasons my dermatologist loves this soap. Dr. Squatch is a high-quality soap made with...
Look, I could put this in a nutshell, right? If Joe Biden walks outside and it's raining, and Joe Biden says, "Oh, it's raining," then there's some people responsible. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
They could be soaking wet, and they would say,
"The straw man." Right. So he's built up a little straw man. People say we didn't go to the moon because of a political opinion. They don't like the government and say the government lied to them. Therefore, the government is the moon landing, and therefore the moon landing is a lie. And now he's taking apart that straw man. This is pathetic.
they know it isn't.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think I understand the psychology of this. I think the psychology is the psychology of a dog that has been just kicked so often and lied to so often. You know, we've been so mistreated by the press, been so accused of racism and all this other stuff that you get to this level of...
Nah, not me. I didn't influence myself with the TV for many years. I think I stopped watching the news at about 12, completely disregarded it. So I've got no hard feelings towards this. I don't feel like a beaten down dog. I just know that space violates the second law of thermodynamics. I'm a rational man. I don't feel any bitterness towards the lying bastards that are the scum that you feel have downtrodden the downtrodden dogs. I'm just not one of them. Yeah, I'm not a downtrodden dog. I just know that space is fake.
But meanwhile, he's the one sitting there whimpering. Like, what? This guy, I'm like Brian. This guy has some audacity. Like, he doesn't even sound like he knows what he's talking about at all within the ridiculous narrative. Like, are you serious with this guy? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. The beauty of this is we hear this all the time. I mean, with our friends, when it comes to flat earth and other things, violations of the laws of nature. So it's really good because this guy's coming from, you know, the political situation, the downtrodden, and, you know, they're just in this mindset to where they just want to revolt. No, I get it. Okay, so what's he contrasting that to? Joe Biden comes out and says it's raining, but then one of these people come out and says, no, it's not raining. I mean, that is so stupid. As the straw man of straw mans, he can't handle it.
I don't see it that way. I see it as he's admitting that his own government have openly lied to people in recent times, never mind going into the past. And people have no trust in them because the government keep treating them like they're stupid and keep lying to them. But he's saying, but you can trust this thing. Like, what? I think he's kind of attacking people for being defensive. Look, why would you not be defensive if you feel you've been lied to on a grand scale time and time again? And he's telling them, but this thing is not a lie. It's like, sorry, lad, everything is a possible lie if they're willing to lie to us about all those other things. You know what I mean?
It's like just snapping at things, and it's dangerous, it's unhealthy, and it's worrisome. So when you see the vitriol that's directed at the idea that this thing that happened, I see signs of society just really coming apart, and not just the progressives this time.
Don't project. You can't cope with it. That doesn't mean society's going to fall apart just because you can't cognitively cope with the idea that it hasn't happened. And everyone's telling you it happened. And that's very troubling to you. Yeah, just because you won't be able to cope with it doesn't mean society will fall apart, you pathetic old twat.
Now I
It's
see
dangerous, Nathan. It's dangerous. It's unhealthy. Society is going to fall apart. It's a 4-part series. It has to be true.
The guy sounds scared, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Like, do you hear it in his voice? Is
Pure
it just
projection.
me?
Absolutely. He's fearful in the same way Katz was fearful that I would appreciate that there's a lot of lies in society would be a more accurate description. Society won't fall apart. Most of society appreciates at some level that they're being lied to on a scale that they just don't appreciate. But that doesn't mean that the society that you know will fall apart when you appreciate that you've been lied to. You just appreciate that you've been lied to. Now, reasonable and rational men will walk away from the liars. Not sit whimpering and telling everybody that society's going to fall apart. Pull yourself together. Pathetic. My God. Shout out to Flat Earth Travolta. He says, I miss the days when ballers would come here. Rumpus, where are you? Rumpus got banned for being a liar. When he flat out lied about the geometric horizon and its necessity when debating over the Isle of Man and the physical limitation at the horizon and how you know things are refracted because of their position with respect to the horizon, to then later say, no, it was always refracted, and then deny it 3 times when I played him back his quote. At that point, he's just a liar. So Rumpus wasn't welcome back ever after that. Pure deceit, pure lies. As for the rest of them, they've all come and gone. They've all been defeated, including Rumpus. So why would you want them back? They've all had their asses handed to them. Name a baller that you'd want to see here, type their name in, and they'll have been here already. Had their asses handed to them and then shown the door. Thank you for the super chat, Flat Earth Travolta. Really appreciate the support.
I would consider to be normally sensible people who are determined that it can't have happened because NASA said it did.
That's not what we concluded. This is 3 days ago. Sorry, no. We didn't conclude because NASA. That's a crap argument. Do you think anybody in their right mind, Mr. Wide-eyed, terrified, oh no, it might not be true, would accept me coming up to you and saying that we hadn't discovered a certain continent because the government said we discovered it? No, nobody in their right mind would accept that. However, if you say that the place they say we're going, that light in the sky, isn't capable of being visited because you'd have to traverse a sky vacuum that would leave us all dead and with no gas to breathe. If that isn't us just saying, well, NASA said it. Is that really the standard that anybody's actually presented this amount? Show me some of the quotes where someone said, the moon landing's fake simply because NASA said it was true. Show me somebody that said that. And anybody who read it, if you do show it me, that took any credence to it. That's just a crap argument. It's a straw man that you're pulling apart here. Like anybody's made that crap of an argument to him. Just a liar. What a load of crap. Who in their right mind would accept that as an argument in the affirmative for the debunking of the moon landing? It's simply not true because NASA said it. Nobody's going to put that argument forward. They'd be laughed out of town if they presented it in that way. It's just a joke. It's just a straw man so he can pull it apart. It's pathetic.
Yeah, but look at the argument he used with Joe Biden. I mean, anybody that could fog a mirror can tell that Joe Biden doesn't know where he is half the time, can't formulate coherent sentences. But that's the guy he used as some sort of an argument against anybody against him. I mean, that not to bring it politically, but that kind of shows you where he's at. So anything else that comes out of his mouth, any other nonsense, won't surprise me at all.
But as Travolta says, but what if we want to hear them get their asses handed to them again? Okay, well, you can go back and listen to repeats, or ask yourself, why aren't we being shut down in the metaphorical sense of the word by everyone, always, all day, when we've got an open door policy? What do we actually get? Oh, Nathan will mute me. That's their defense. All right, no, people would have... Go on, lotion basket.
Yeah, my bad. Well, we get these oversensitive people that as soon as they hear something they don't know, they discount you. They hide in their little shells.
Yeah.
They don't want to be told they're wrong. They don't want to be told everything they know is wrong. But they get too... I tell them, don't be bitch. Just don't be bitch. And we'll be fine. We can have a conversation as to why these things are false and then you can do some research if you decide. But it's like they're afraid to even find out for themselves.
Yeah, like this guy. They're terrified of the consequences that they might have to face if they consider it as real. Much easier with a trembling voice to say they're all wrong, and the argument that their moon landings are fake because NASA said it. Oh yeah, that sounds like a really easy to debunk straw man now, doesn't it?
And NASA's part of the government, and the government's lying to us.
We heard it the first time, mate. It was crap the first time. It's crap when you reiterated it. I've got quite annoyed with you for trying to burn this straw man. I've said it's pathetic. People have pointed out the whimper and tremble in your voice. Yeah, we've heard it.
About everything, and so therefore, boom. And it's not just in the moon landing. I'm seeing this in a lot of different arenas.
Right, so you're trying to lend credibility to this crap straw man by saying you've seen it in other people's comment section too. Other people have said this crap argument in regards to other things that the government put forward. Oh, well, if the government are putting it forward, then it's obviously nobody else is putting this argument forward. It's just a crap straw man that you're trying to lend credence to.
Now, where it is a reflexive...
Why are you stuttering? Why? Because you're lying. That's why he's stuttering away, because he knows it's not true.
...reaction to automatically say, well, if Joe Biden says it's raining, then...
We heard this too. We've already heard this, right? Do you need to say it 3 times to make it seem credible? Yeah? While you stutter around it. Fair enough. On with the video. This show is ace. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Then it's got to be sunny, even if he's standing out in the rain, right? So that's it.
The angle I've noticed on this is over in the comments.
Indeed, chocolate, which is wow. 115 people watching though. We may extend the show. Well, never know. If we get 225.
Can I say something?
Just one sec. If we get 225 watching, we'll extend the show. So please share the show. Go ahead, whoever that was.
So he's got a conservative viewer base who obviously is against Joe Biden. He uses Joe Biden in the straw man. And then he can't believe how the conservative base would even think that the moon landing is wrong. I mean, have you lost your mind, your conservative voter base? That's where he's coming
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, Tim, I thought you were done. The thing is, usually people that are doing this, they're doing that themselves. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So it's usually like, I think there's a psychological term I can't think of, projecting. They're projecting the very thing they're doing. So which means he's probably taking either Trump or Biden's words, and just because they say it, everything they say else is wrong. You know what I mean? He's probably doing the very thing he's claiming we're doing or somebody else is doing. He's probably doing it. Because it's usually projecting.
Oh,
it is projecting. That's exactly what it is.
He's definitely projecting. Like I said, the first thing I heard him say when I came in here was these people are acting out of emotion. And listen to what he's been saying this whole time. This is affecting him emotionally very hard.
Comments at PJ Media, my 4-day-a-week job when I'm not here with you guys having so much fun. And it's the every election is now stolen crowd. If I'm writing anything about any kind of election, it doesn't matter what the topic is, how far away it is from us. Does election fraud occur? But the point that isn't addressed is it's not easy to steal elections. You can shut things down in the when it doesn't involve places like Atlanta or it's protected by. It didn't matter. We wouldn't have a Republican.
Hi, I'm Michael Conway. I'm the.
What evidence you present, it just doesn't matter. The elections don't matter, crowd. Just show up, and you there's no reason to be done. Yes, Scott.
Is someone trying to get a word in there, or is it them interrupting each
other?
Yeah,
I want to ask you a question. How come you keep playing the video over someone talking? You did it 3 times now already. You did the chocolate, you did to me, and you did to someone else.
Yeah, got to keep the show rolling. What do you want?
Yeah, but you just say it to us. I mean, it's rude. It's like it's like if someone's going to do that,
get told off by Brian. I'm sorry.
No point in someone speaking up.
I'm with it, Brian. I'm with it. Word up, Nathan.
I've noticed that you've done that to Brian 3 times.
Okay, bloody hell. Put your handbags down.
And I heard him talking.
Okay, right. Anyway, shout out to Flat Earth Travolta. It says minutes plus equals 240. Thank you very much for the super chat, Flat Earth Travolta. Hopefully the comedic effect of me cutting off Neil was amusing for you.
Wow. I have a comment about the video, about the actual what he just said.
Go ahead.
The thing is, he says, elections can't be stolen. Okay, what he's trying to say, you should not question any irregularities in the system. Like here in Tennessee, the voting system probably could be very ethical. Does that mean every county in Tennessee is ethical? Which means there could be irregularities or someone trying to fudge the numbers in that county. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like, there's not even a critical analysis that could potentially happen. And right now, there's lawsuits and things coming out that some irregularities were occurring during the election. So you can't. So it's just trying to shut down any kind of form of questioning when you say that. So it's like if you can't even question the government, and also for a lie to really hold true, there's some things that have to be true within it. Because if it's everything about it was a lie, then everybody would, oh, that's a lie. We recognize it. But if there's things that are true in it, then it's more likely to be deceived by it. So which means NASA could do I went and saw a rocket launch. It really happened. I did it. I saw it. So that event was true and had happened. Does that mean
I have toy rockets
No,
too. I can shoot up in the sky.
Say again, lotion basket.
Yeah, I have toy rockets I can shoot up in the sky too. We can buy them, right? And you can have fun with it. You can show people that you're doing it.
I've got a wardrobe. Therefore, Narnia.
Nathan, isn't that
Just
called
to-
a false dichotomy?
This sounds
straw
like a load
man?
of
Because
government
you think-
cucks, fearful of what might be, saying we must believe, we must believe, we must trust, we must trust. That's all I hear.
But address anybody who might be listening to this right now and thinking that Steve Green's video feed is being tapped. That's a woodpecker that's hitting the side of his house.
Yes.
And so if you're hearing that, yes, he's being tapped, but it's not by the government.
Exactly. I've learned to filter it out, and
I'm
hopefully
just
my
heading
audio
off the
gets
comments
checkerboarded.
that are going to come and say Steve's needs to stop tapping on his desk.
Scott, let me just sort of. Go ahead. Finish up, Steve. Sorry.
Oh, I was actually no. You go ahead, because I think I know where you're going with this, and it'll dovetail.
Well, just because somebody lies about
painful to say.
Well, what they're doing, hang on, this is an important part. What they're doing, they started with every election stolen crowd, and they dovetailed into this videos being sniped and recorded the government, because we hear some tapping now, but that's really a woodpecker. What are they casting anyone who comes against anything as?
about something, and maybe because they lie about something.
Yes.
Don't say that.
Something frequently doesn't mean they're lying about everything all the time. But
so there he is. Now he's just pulled apart his straw man. So like when we have it in debate, put up their crappy premise and bolster their crappy premise by saying other people have used this same crappy premise and argument in other sections where they're saying government are wrong. Leave a little gap, talk about something a little bit different, and then take apart the straw man. When there's a sufficient enough gap for you to not remember the lead up and premise that he's laid down, that we pulled apart. That's why there's us pausing the video every 25 seconds. Not so much in this video, I've got to be honest. But that's why. Because that's the tactic, isn't it? Now, he's pulled apart the straw man. Right? So, oh, well, obviously, just because they say, or just because they're wrong in one area doesn't mean they're not wrong in every area. Or however he phrased it. I've got that slightly butchered. But you get what I'm paraphrasing.
But here's I think part of
there's that stutter again. Because he knows it's not true.
The problem. Scott,
Elon
several
Musk.
years ago.
Yeah.
Back when we were at the previous establishment, I was I got called to jury duty, and I was selected for the jury, and we got in the room, we voted for foreman, and I was elected foreman. And what I found among the jurors, and this would be 2008 or 9 or 10, somewhere around there, so a while ago, was that the police would issue their testimony, and clearly the instructions were, you must make your decision based on what you hear in the courtroom. And I encountered a great deal of, the police are lying.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, well, what evidence do you have that they're lying?
Fair enough so far. Couldn't agree more. If people are in a jury saying, well, they're the police, therefore they're lying, which is the standard he has laid down and I've called a straw man. Not exactly the same, but it reasonably parallels. I'll give him props. Okay. Then you ask them for the evidence. Perfectly reasonable. I think we'd all agree.
Well, it's because because police lie all the time. What I was able to put my finger on, Scott, is that when you have watched movies and TV shows, you're
all right. What evidence have you got that they based it on TVs and movies? Was it told to you? Was the evidence that you're now going to base this on going to be presented? Let's see.
Entire life where there's a twist at the end where what you think is going to happen, nope, turns out that the whole thing was...
Yeah, that's what happens in TVs and movies. Now you're going to tell us how that is why they distrust the police, isn't it? You're going to present evidence like you've just standardized, right? Let's see.
Exact opposite of what you thought. If you feed that to people for their entire lives, they will be looking for the...
No, not if. You just laid this down as an evidentiary standard you haven't fulfilled. This is why people distrust the police, according to you. Now it's being prefaced with an if statement. That's why he's stuttering. This guy knows the broad strokes of the bullshit plan he's got, and he's just executing it poorly. That's what he's doing. No. Maybe you should have asked them why they distrust the police. And when they say, here's a demonstrated standard of where a policeman lied, you might think, oh, so people lie. Some people have got jobs as policemen. Shocking, isn't it? Yeah, there may be evidentiary standards that they could have laid down that showed that policemen who are men lie. Because they do. They're people. Yeah, it might not be the case, like you say, in this particular instance. But your crappy straw man's not getting better. It's getting worse. Shout out to Vlad on Flat Earth. Extend the show if possible. Thank you. How many we got watching? Got 115 watching, Vlad. If you can share the show and get another 5 to 10 people watching, then maybe we will. Thank you for the super chat.
Hey, listen up here. Notice what's happening here. He just said when you feed the people for their entire life, well, space has been fed to us our entire life.
Yeah, he's making us he's projecting out our argument. He's saying, if you feed people bullshit all their life, they'll accept the bullshit. Right?
The twist where there isn't a twist. We become a culture to this. We become desensitized to the idea that sometimes things really are the way they seem.
Yeah.
What, like space, the sky vacuum, like traveling, like fighting in it, like Star Wars, like Star Trek, like Buck Rogers? Like we just get softened up to the idea that the sky is actually a vacuum in violation of natural law and we can travel places in it because we see it on TV and movies. Yeah, that's shocking, isn't it? I mean, while we could explain the ideas and notions of how people become programmed, we don't need to. We don't need to appeal to these crappy arguments. When we say the sky's not a vacuum, it violates natural law. That's the end of our argument. We don't need to say, and people believe it because they've been softened up to it with predictive programming. No, that's not necessary. Just debunk the sky vacuum and that's it, walk away laughing. And then you can contemplate, you've been deceived into believing it was true when it violated natural law. I'll have to tell you. But you're using it as an argument now, aren't you? Yeah, how sad.
And when you've seen so many episodes of so many movies and TV shows where at the end you go, I thought...
Star Trek, Star Wars, Buck Rogers. Yeah. People get very softened up to the idea that they can travel to the moon.
I thought this guy did it, but it turned out it was that guy.
Nathan.
Go ahead, Brian. I would hate to interrupt you. I'm going on mute.
Great. This guy is having a go at people, right? He's having a go at people because he's saying that they believe that the police, because here's what he's saying, that they believe that police were lying because they watch too much TV. That's his estimation, right? Why does he believe in space and the moon landing? Is it because of movies and programming through TV and movies?
Yep. It can only be because of movies. He hasn't gone to the moon. He hasn't gone to space. His only primary, in his mind, source of information in this regard is movies. Literally. He can't evidence his standard with anything else at all. It's pure projection.
If you're a snorer, you need to hear this.
Really bad.
Regular anti-snoring products
I saw this in the jury room. When you started questioning these people, they say, well, he couldn't have done it. I mean, why? Well, because it's obvious that he did it. I mean, there's so much evidence that he did it. That means he couldn't have done it. Right?
That's right.
This sounds like bullshit. Again, it sounds like you're just making this up. If somebody said to me, look at... Why am I even denying this? In the crazy topsy-turvy world of flat earth debate, this does actually happen. I was about to say, how nuts, how can you possibly have that case? It is the case. People will present your evidence that you've debunked their claim with back to you as though it's a defense of their own claim. And you're like, no, that's my evidence to debunk your claim. You're presenting it back to me. like that's somehow going to win your point. It isn't. So I can't really...
It is a strategy.
Yeah, that is a strategy
that they can use to basically, for people that don't really understand it all, but are just going to go by their trust, they'll get confused up. So it's really a trick for the ignorant listeners to switch around the argument. So just to confuse them. It's literally sowing confusion.
It's like us saying...
It's a tactic.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, a tactic, definitely.
It's like us saying you can't measure the geometric horizon, and you'd need to assert geometry. And then coming back to us going, well, that's because you can't measure the geometric horizon. That's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Because it's all...
Go on, Brian first.
He's changing the intonation. It's like, that's because you can't measure the geometric horizon. It's the lifting of the voice.
Right.
You should already know that.
No, exactly. Yeah, you, globe believer, you cannot measure the geometric horizon. Response from globe believer. Yeah, but that's because you can't measure the geometric horizon. Just a change in tone.
Well, setup.
Because the writer of a
Just one
TV
thing.
series would have set you up in that manner.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's exactly how they would have structured the story to steer everything so that you believe that guy did it when he didn't really do it, and then there would be that turn at the end, and you would...
Well, that is kind of what a lawyer's job is. I mean, they are just detailing what a lawyer does. Like, both sides have to be true then if this standard applies unilaterally. So the defense are only painting a picture of it not being the case because it's true. Well, they're only painting a picture of it not being the case with evidence because it is, would be the standard in reverse. It's like, no, this doesn't apply in either event. It's a stupid argument. No one's going to ever look at you and go, look, we've got the clearly dripping knife with blood on it. We've got him standing over the corpse, laughing, and a filmed video of the murder. Obviously, he didn't do it. There's so much evidence to show he did. It's an orgy of evidence. He couldn't possibly have done it. Nobody's ever going to lay down that
Because I
standard.
saw it in a movie.
It's just stupid.
Would be shocked. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think people are manipulated by TV. I also wonder how much of a role, frankly, people like us played in it.
Projecting again immediately. He's a chain gun projector. It's like scatter gunning his projections one after another. Da, 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 da.
These two remind me of the old guy, the Muppets, the two old guys from the Muppet Show. That's what I feel like I'm listening to.
Wait a second, Nathan. 1 second. They're saying that people are manipulated by TV. You're darn straight. They were manipulated into believing that they landed on the moon. We all know that's a violation of natural law. So he's correct on that.
Well, he's actually wrong. I forget the stat, but we're year 1 or 2 into this Math Powerland laid this down. Again, I don't want to just make up the statistic, but back in '69, how many people do you think had television sets? Do you think they were everywhere in everybody's house? No. So, obviously, there was a fair percentage of people that believed the moon landing because they heard it on the radio, not watched it on TV.
That's right. In that time, it was the middle class that had televisions, and then like the neighbors would come over to watch it with them. Right?
What?
Because not everybody had one yet.
Didn't something very similar to that happen before that? What was it called? War of the Worlds?
That's
right.
So,
War of the Worlds stands out because it's uncommon to the modern man in this time. Whereas at the time, the difference in terms of how you use propaganda and programming in this regard was no different for radio broadcasts than it was for TV broadcasts. So the methodology remained exactly the same. So if you're going to test the waters with how somebody reacts to a movie, you just find out and ask them. You let them watch it for free and you ask them what they thought of it, and that's it. It's really easy, right? So you just do that with a propaganda movie and you find out how accepting somebody is of the notion of Superman flying around the sphere Earth. Did they comment on that as being very unbelievable when they saw it? Or did they just say, Superman was great, it was wonderful when he propped back up the dam? Which bits do they just accept? Well, the same is true with radio. If you can time it such like they did with War of the Worlds, where you miss the intro, where it very explicitly states that it's a drama, or a sci-fi drama, and you just tune in after the ball game and listen in, and it sounds like the world's being invaded, and you accept it wholeheartedly. When you turn the volume down, metaphorical volume in terms of the over-the-top nature, scratch everything I've just said. I'm going to refer you all to a channel called Dilly-Gill, Dilly space Gill, Dilly-Gill. And Dilly-Gill breaks down how NASA have got away with the fakery of space on the sets and the sound stages and the trapezes and the high wires. How have they managed to do that? Well, they've done it by finding out what people will accept, in this example on the radio. But an easier example is in Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever it is, Buck Rogers. What will people accept? Then turn that down metaphorically in terms of the scale and the impact of what's being shown. Now, Dilly-Gill describes that as playing their hand very close to their chest. And what he means by that is you play the drama up at the movies. You have an intergalactic war with laser beams coming out of the front of spaceships and people holding lightsabers. It's very over the top, hammy even. It's melodrama in some parts of it, right? Now, if people will accept that when they know they're suspending disbelief, something that's far less dramatic, like opening a TV dinner whilst on a trapeze, which is what you get from NASA, will be far easier to accept by the general public. So that's what they've figured out with radio, with TV, with anything that's predictively programming you and softening you up to something that inevitably will happen. They've already figured out what you will tolerate mentally, how far you are prepared to push the suspension of disbelief. And then they just tone it back 2 or 3 notches. Then you'll definitely accept it.
But that's not what I mean. I'm not talking about in 1969. I'm talking about all years after that they showed it on TV. That had an influence on a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Was that it?
Well, what I would say is when people did get a television and did have the opportunity to see a TV, what they were looking forward to seeing was one of the television stations playing the moon footage.
Correct.
That's one of the main things people wanted to see if they hadn't seen it.
Because we are, in large part, social critics. We are constantly evaluating what happens in the news, and we're critical of the government. And we're unlikely to do a story, although we've done some over the years, that is, like, attaboy, government, good job. So if you looked at the
I would if they'd give me a chance.
If you look at the preponderance of stories that we've done, in some way, the governance of your program, whatever, there's this whole long list. Not necessarily we do it disingenuously, but the things that we focus on tend to pay attention to that. Meanwhile, a couple of million government employees and about the fact that the whole thing was faked. It's like, oh yeah, well, let me just tell you confidentially, I was the guy who opened the door to the dome where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went into the simulated lunar landscape thing where we actually changed the gravity inside the dome. like nobody broke. In all those years, not a single person said, yeah, well, it was all fake.
What, other than some cosmonauts and a few astronauts who've since come forward? There's a few people who have definitely come forward, said that it's fake.
And a guy recently who said his father worked in the facility who's a guy who's dying of cancer.
Right. So there has been people who've whistled blue.
Oh, in any case, I think.
Hi, Johnny here for Chaos Cards, and on this week's TCG Minute, we have a massive Pokemon release.
Everything in the media conspires to have you believe there's going to be a twist. That somebody is lying.
We're being gaslit.
We're being gaslit. We can't trust anybody. I frankly don't believe it's true.
But we can trust we went to the moon. So we can't trust the media, even though you've only received media information about going to the moon. None of them are to be trusted. We're being gaslit, but the moon landings are real. Okay, that logic makes perfect sense.
True. I believe two things.
What he said
Number
there,
one,
Nathan, just 1 second. What he said is that he laid out that everyone thinks they're being lied to. Everyone thinks everything is a lie. And he said just at the end, I frankly don't believe it's true. So we've got your belief to go on then. What you believe, which is a nothing. What I believe means nothing to someone else. So that's his standard, his own belief.
most people, including people I don't like and people who disagree with me, are trying to do the best they can in the circumstances in which they find themselves. And number two,
who cares? Yeah, I'm trying to do the best I can in the circumstances that befall me. I'm very poor. Whoopee-doo! So does that mean that I'm wrong when I say that the sky vacuum is a second law of thermodynamics violation? Yeah, I get that all the time. People in my comments, I'll point out that the gravity's not real and gas doesn't go down. And they'll point out how poor I am or call me an e-beggar. Like, is that a rebuttal?
The argument he gave earlier, the argument he gave earlier about the person letting Neil Armstrong in the hatch, etc. So does he think that 95 or 90% of NASA employees had that exact duty to open up the hatch? I mean, it's compartmentalized. And so he's making this statement like, how can all these people be in on it? Now that in itself, you got to prove that they were all there when the hatch was open, if you say that. But they weren't. They had their own jobs. They're in this room doing this thing. They're not seeing it for what's happening. The small group knows.
People never heard of the Manhattan Project?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing, like things like that happen, but people are still with the why would they lie? Oh, the lie is too big.
The Montauk Project?
Yeah. All types of projects. Like, are you kidding me? Like, these people still exist? People think, like, it's crazy because earlier he said something like, oh, I wished all the videos that I've made against the government were all, oh, great job, government, which means you've criticized the government, which means there are times when you feel like the government is not 100% truthful to you. But this is the same thing you're criticizing everybody else for. This guy is full of shit.
All liars. Every last one of us, including me. In the right circumstance, we will shade, we will bend, we will curve the truth in order to not offend somebody, in order to accomplish an objective that we care about, in order to shield ourselves from criticism, or whatever. We have all the rationalizations that go through our minds. And, it comes down to the Bible is not wrong when it says all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And so when I look out at government officials, what I see is a bunch of sinners like me, probably trying to do the best they can, but still screwing up.
That's the most truest words you said so far. Hold on, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because of the fact that you just screw up saying it's just a screw
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
You're
breaking up. You're breaking up, Tense Man.
Yeah, I understand what Tense is saying. It's like, look, they're just making mistakes, just screwing up. It's like, no, they're not just screwing up. These people are very aware of what they're doing and what they're supporting or not supporting. They're not just screwing up and getting things wrong. That is not what they're doing.
I still haven't come across the point where you stop projecting,
Yeah, I know. And I have something else to say. Chocolate only barely finished what he was saying before you played the video the last time there, Nathan. So we're keeping the track of this.
Okay.
We're watching you.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. See what I was going to comment on?
You're not that much better, but see if you can.
Sound brilliant.
Let's see if we can get through it. Everyone else go on mute.
No, I was going to say he's saying, yeah, we all screw up, we all shade the truth, we all lie. Okay, that's not a problem because we all do that, right? But he's making this whole state program
Transform and roll out.
Outstanding. I agree.
10, you got to readjust your satellites.
Stupid space balloon. I should have bought a germ balloon.
I should have went Russian.
Times intentionally, just like I do. And so I'm not as quick to judge harshly. And that's why I don't think, I think it would be more work. That should be the third principle. People are lazy. It's too much work to fake a moon landing.
Not if the paycheck is right.
Can you guys talk about that for 2 or 3 minutes while I do something?
Opposed to actually doing something that is impossible?
No, but that's funny that he said that because it's the same thing like Neil deGrasse Tyson says with the fuel, right? You're gone there because the amount of fuel that was purchased, I think he said. What did he say, Chocolate?
The amount of fuel that they use.
Because we were able to calculate how much fuel it took to go to the moon and back. That's how we know we went to the moon and back.
Let me ask you a question. What would take more effort, right, from the US government and military? World War II or faking the moon landing? He said it would be too difficult. So it's more difficult than World War II. Building all those ships and tanks and everything else. Go on.
I've heard that before. This is one of those. What was I think it was Kosho years ago. Said it would be more expensive to fake it than to actually go.
Yep, I remember that. You're right, Chocolate.
Can you believe somebody who thinks they're rational says something like that? It would cost less to fake it than to actually go.
Yeah,
Let that,
and I wonder
let
what
that
he was
sink in.
basing that on. Yeah.
Well, there was the inflatable tanks versus the rubber tanks made of steel. So it's much more expensive to make the rubber tanks than the steel ones.
That checks out.
Yeah, it's just any war.
Well,
Take
in
the
the
Vietnam War,
graphic
any war.
animators, like any graphic animator that is a decent person that doesn't, lie to massive amounts of people, they have the skill to make that fakeness happen, and if they come to them and say, hey, we're going to need you to lie to everybody, well, these graphic animators are going to be like, well, how much you going to pay me? And if you have 7, 8 of them, I mean, that can rack up $100 million, $200 million in just a moment, and then you got to get everybody else to go along with it. And those people, if they're decent people, they're also going to say, well, how much are you going to pay me to keep my mouth shut?
What did Buzz Aldrin say to that child?
You
real
make
question is that we
interview now. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't hear Ten's question.
I said, what did Buzz Aldrin say to that child?
Oh,
yeah. Because we didn't
He
go.
said we didn't actually go.
Didn't he also told in a talk show like you didn't see it on TV? I mean, was what they saw
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
But did he mean
Conan
that
O'Brien.
they didn't actually go back? Or did he mean they didn't actually go? Because the way I listened to it, it sounds like he's saying they didn't actually. Why didn't they go back? I don't know.
No, he's saying
because
we didn't
we
go back
never
because
did,
we didn't
and
actually
that's the
go
way
in
it
the first
happened.
place.
When there's a video of Donald Trump talking about Space Force, and Buzz Aldrin is right behind him, and the way Buzz Aldrin looks, it's like he wants to say, "Oh my God, these people are full of shit. But it's like he's so scared that he can't say anything because, dead, right? And in the Conan interview, Conan's like, oh, yeah, we were watching it on TV. And Buzz Aldrin says, no, you didn't. You were watching animation. And people didn't have a lot of people didn't have TVs. And then Conan says I think it was, oh, well, yeah, because we were listening to it on the radio. Well, did you have a TV then, Conan, or was that just a bunch of lies? But now you see Buzz Aldrin, and it's like he wants to tell everybody. Because I genuinely think Buzz Aldrin's when you get that old and your time is up, you get these older people get scared about if they don't know about God, if they don't know about these things, and they get scared. And as far as they've been indoctrinated to lie to massive amounts of people, well, there's a place for you that if you've constantly done that all your life.
They're saying the
feel me?
same thing about Ringo Starr. They're saying that Ringo Starr wants to spill the beans that Paul McCartney actually did die in 1966. Just another conspiracy.
Right. And just one thing with you guys were talking about elections and in Michigan, it's generally a Republican state. Okay. I've met tens of thousands of people, maybe even 100,000 people I've met in Michigan. Not one of them likes Joe Biden. None of these people, occasionally you see the person driving around in their convertible with a mask on, and you know who they voted for. But everybody else, they don't like the guy. They didn't vote for the guy. Nothing.
I don't think we talk about
like
this.
these people don't exist.
It's all gone very political.
Sorry, it's just from what I've seen.
Well, can we just go back onto the Buzz Aldrin point?
We can, after I do another quick shout out to Paul and the people who supported me on GoFundMe, as I can't believe it's arrived within 10 hours of ordering it, but the amplifier I spoke about earlier has literally arrived during the show. My wife just humped it in. So I thought, sod it, I'll unbox it live. Why not? Thank you very much for all of you who supported me on GoFundMe. The campaign's still running, so I do actually want to replace all of the old amps that I've got. They're about 10 to 20 years old. And this one is great, and hopefully I can get another two if you do support me on the GoFundMe campaign. Thanks in advance, and thanks if you've supported me up until now, and another thank you to Paul. But carry on. We have got 125 people watching live, so I may carry on live for a little bit, and we'll just shorten the after show rather.
3/4. Ryan's next.
Yeah, well, all I was going to say about the Buzz Aldrin question was I don't think Buzz Aldrin is scared. I think Buzz Aldrin knew at the start what he was going along with. But I think he just, at this stage, just wants to let the world know it's not real, lads. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's scared. I don't think he's under threat. I just think that he just wants to say to the world, look, it's not real. It was never real. Cop on.
Well, he wants to, yeah. It shows in his face. But the scared comes in is if he does say it.
Well, I think he's already said it a couple of times by what he said on Conan O'Brien and with that little girl and other things. I just think that he's waiting for the world to cop on to the fact, look, and just accept it didn't happen. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's scared. I don't think he has much to fear. I don't think he's too bothered at this stage.
We were just passengers taking a flight, man. Don't ask us. Buzz Aldrin, copping, please.
The radiation wouldn't affect them because they didn't know about it.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a real hero, right? Asked about his heroic mission, and all he's doing is copping, please. Don't ask me what that footage is about. We were just passengers taking a flight. No, weren't you the guys? Like, you're the heroes, guy. You're not just some guy they put in a tin can and sent over there, right? So now all of a sudden, you're scared. Like that video was so like just I don't know. I don't know. It's just too funny watching these guys squirm after all of that.
Of course they're scared. They know that they can't ever win in a face-to-face debate. They can only win within this system they've created, this tradition of talking and ways of going about. And in that, they can justify it all. And as long as everybody around them agrees and everybody out there agrees and adopts it, then it's all good. But we, flat earth debaters, have real arguments. They're terrified of it, so they can never touch it. They can only project their own discomfort and issues onto the other side, which has become a complete straw man in every form, including in sizing up who these people are that are opposing them, the flat earthers. They don't know that. They don't know any flat earthers. They forget about them very quickly.
A show that Bill Whittle put on that we're reviewing is titled Make It Stop. What's he trying to stop?
Did you do a bit more of the video?
People questioning
Yeah.
the moon landing.
Steve, you got anything you want to check into that?
Oh, sorry.
To this whole, you want anything you want to check into this whole idea of the twist? You know, there's got to be a twist.
Yeah, I mean, my first memory of that, this is going way back. The 70s was maybe the original high for paranoid thrillers. And I remember seeing on the big screen, I was probably about 9 years old, 8 years old, Capricorn 1, which was about the faked Mars landing and the astronauts deciding to bail on it. And then you've got, the government gunmen hunting down the astronauts one by one before any of them can reach the press and tell them that the launch was faked yesterday or whatever it was. And actually, one of my favorite jokes of all time came out of that movie, the squirrel joke. I'll tell you guys sometime.
Interesting is talking about Capricorn 1, although if you've seen Capricorn 1, you'll appreciate that it is the story of the moon landing being faked. They just call it Mars, but it's the same story.
Maybe on Backstage next week. In any case, so I was raised on that. It was always just an element of movie making when I was a kid, and there's so much more of it now. But I think the real poison is social media, and I know it's easy to pound on that, but it's because so much of it is true. The anonymity doesn't just tend to bring out the worst in a lot of people, and I think people already tend that way. But those are the voices that get magnified, and because of that, discussions that we used to have. My best friend in high school was a communist, and all we did was argue. It was fun.
Right, I think that's probably going to be where I round out the live show. So with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit me up on the GoFundMe campaign and all that good stuff. Also, a shout out to D Rose, who smashed the super chat while I was presumably unboxing my new amplifier. He says, at Supreme Knowing, jack shit, why don't you enter Discord and put your money where your mouth is? Providing gas goes downward, goes boom boom, or shh. Thank you very much indeed, D Rose, for the super chat. Was there any else I missed? Just have a quick scroll back up through the chat, see if I missed any others while I was doing that unboxing. Lad on Flat Earth, extend the show, please. Yeah, I read that one. Another massive thank you to all of you. Stay tuned if you're watching on After Show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Hey, do you think it's because it's all right? If I stay still and I talk really slow, I never robot. But sometimes when I speak fast, it sounds like I'm nobody.
We just We debated constantly. It was a blast. But there's less and less room for that because as the loudest, rudest, most paranoid, angry voices get amplified on social media, instead of engaging, we back up into our silos and shout back instead of having these late night bull sessions that I grew up.
If you watch talking
and you
points,
suddenly feel like you've stumbled into a treasure trove of information that's
of all of this. One of the biggest problems when I looked at some of these so-called evidence that people were putting down for why it didn't happen or couldn't have happened, I realized that not only are the issues that we talked about a big deal, but also we don't know how to think anymore. No one's taught people how to think, not what to think, how to think. And I can give you a really good example about this. A number of commenters said that the reason then they know that we didn't go to the moon was because Neil Armstrong said that we didn't go. And also Buzz Aldrin turned to a 4-year-old girl once and said, we didn't go to the moon. Therefore,
so based on the two people that said they went, explicitly saying they didn't go, that's not evidence? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that as a standard of evidence? The people who specifically say they go admit they did not go. That's not good enough for you, though. Let's see what he's got to say about this.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to see how he squares this out.
Therefore, we didn't go to the moon, right? And
why are you laughing? Why is that funny?
It's the pain, Nathan. It's the pain.
And I was trying to think of a way to show that different evidence has different weights, right? And so
a confession can lock someone up. If you've got not enough circumstantial evidence and you stick someone in a room and interview them and they admit to the crime, that's enough to prosecute them and throw them in front of the judge. That's the standard, a confession. So if we're saying they didn't go and they say explicitly, we did not go, that's a confession.
Yeah, but Nathan, he's now confessing how he is like, oh yeah, oh by the way, no, we measure with 2 scales. He's literally confessing it right now in this sentence.
So what I came to it was I wanted to ask like a person who's like convinced it didn't happen. Are you a sports fan? Yeah. What do you like? You a football fan? Okay, great. You're a football fan. Who won the last Super Bowl? Well, St. Louis did. St. Louis beat Philadelphia.
In front of what? 80,000 live audience members? Correct? So pretty much people were there watching it happen. How many watched him step foot on the moon? Just the media. Just the media that also softened you up with a lot of space. That's it. No eyewitnesses whatsoever. And 2 of the main participants say they didn't do it. So no eyewitnesses, unlike this comparison with 80,000 live witnesses.
Okay, well, what if I told you that somebody told me that Philadelphia actually won the game?
I'd go and get the 80,000 live witnesses that watched them win and then say that's wrong and the person's a liar. However, if there was no live witnesses like with a murder and then someone confesses to doing it and they're the only person that's confessing to doing it, that's a standard. What do you want? Neil says he didn't go. Buzz says he didn't go. Are there any other eyewitnesses to appeal to beyond this example that's got 80,000 of them? No. So it's just them and their word then. And they say they didn't go. Hardly comparable.
We are Mouse.
We needed to get into this bit in the live show.
You're, of course, talking about a fictitious game because Kansas City really won the last Super Bowl.
I'm sorry, who did I say? St. Louis? I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's the Steve side of the state. That's the wrong
side. Sorry.
How did you know? Maybe you were a live witness to it.
I've already shot myself in the foot in this argument, but okay. Kansas City versus the Eagles. Yes, who won? Kansas City won. Well, I got somebody who was at the game who said that the Eagles won that game.
As opposed to the 79,999. Yeah, there's plenty of other people who were there. Unlike the moon landings. Go ahead.
I was trying to figure out. I'm sorry, Bri. Go ahead.
No, you go, Neil. You were ahead of me. Come on.
No, I was just going to say, I was trying to find out when St. Louis played the Eagles.
Go on, Brian.
Yeah, well, he says, I have someone who will say that that didn't happen. It's like, no, you don't. You don't have that. We have two people who were claimed to be the two of the crew of the 1969 first ever Apollo mission or moon landing mission, who are saying they didn't do it. It didn't happen. When is he going to address that?
Wasn't this after he said people don't know how to critically think, and then he displays he can't?
Would you believe that the Eagles won that game based on that evidence? No, that's ridiculous. What if I told you that
good at burning straw men, though, isn't he?
One of the coaches on the Eagles team said that they won the game and that the results were faked? Would that
make any difference to the other 79,999 people or however many that were at the game that could also verify it happened personally because they watched it as an eyewitness? You're comparing something that's got tens of thousands of eyewitnesses to something that takes place in an area none of us are privy to and cannot journey to, and only the elites travel to, and in this instance, only these two individuals. They're the only witnesses, and they're specifically saying they didn't do it, but you think it's comparable to a football game with 80,000 live viewers. No, it's not. It's another straw man.
be enough to convince you? Probably not. What if I told you that the head coach of Kansas City said that the Eagles won the game?
What if there was a internal game that was just a one-on-one, and only the coach and one player played, and the coach says he won, and the player says he won also, so they both can't be right, and this gets argued about for, I don't know, 50 years, and then on their deathbeds, both of them say there was never a game at all. We never played against each other, and they're the only eyewitnesses to the alleged game they played. And both of them simultaneously say we never even stepped on the court together. Yeah? What are you going to do? Turn around and appeal to the 70,000 people that watched the game that they did play? No, it's only them with this story. They're the only people there. Where? Well, they're not in space. They weren't there, and they're telling you that. Not good enough.
Used to be an
It
Eagles
just tells you
coach.
how strong the
Nathan, that was
brainwashing
perfect.
is.
Nathan, that was perfect. And I love how you do that because you're better at using an equivalent dichotomy to not prove them right, but to prove how they don't even know how to exercise that deception. But people can't break it down. Now, some people do think what you just thought. They just don't know how to articulate it. But that was perfect because that's what they should say because they use these false dichotomy, false equivalent, straw man examples. And sometimes you're so wrapped up in the argument that it slips by and the audience around you says, what you got to say about that? But it's really not a good example. I appreciate you for doing that.
Oh, thank you. I like me too. Yeah, chocolate.
Hey, I got a question. Oh, it was for Chocolate, really. When did Neil Armstrong say he didn't go to the moon? Perhaps Chocolate remembers.
He didn't. He said it in a very cryptic way. The veil will be lifted, blah, blah, blah.
He said we didn't go that to a little girl. That's really the most direct.
That was Buzz.
But he
That was
also
Buzz.
gives
That was Buzz
brilliant looks. Do you guys remember when Trump was announcing going back to the moon, and then the camera on him, and he gave this look like, "Oh my God, no, please, God,
You got the
no."
wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
I just posted that video in chat.
What Buzz saying? Well, we didn't go.
But both times Buzz has said, even on the college girl, she said, well, were you terrified or scared? He said, well, couldn't be scared if it never happened. I mean, whether they say it implicitly, whether they say it directly, only a dum-dum couldn't gather and comprehend that they're telling you without getting their heads chopped off or whatever sacrifices they made or whatever oaths of not getting any type of repercussions or ramifications by telling you it never happened. We weren't there. Period.
Oh, the rot
Would
runs
that be
deep.
enough? Would that be enough? Or is the fact that you watched the game from start to finish, doesn't that outweigh the fact that somebody says, no, I've got inside information on this? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Inside information.
And doesn't the fact you didn't watch Neil deGrasse Tyson, Neil Armstrong walk on the moon, you weren't there. So you're comparing it and saying, oh, isn't it enough that you saw the game? Well, no, definitely not. If we had no eyewitnesses to the game, then I'd be very, very, very suspicious of it. Why aren't there allowed to be any eyewitnesses? We're in an age where we can do deep fakes. Shouldn't it be necessary that we can witness that the linesman doesn't get paid off just before the game in the tunnel? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to witness that, like as a person, in person? Yeah, that's what you can do at a ball game. Can you do that with the landing on the moon? Were you up there with the deck chair waiting for them to land so you could cheer and then appeal to this by comparison? No, you weren't, were you? It was just them two. They're the only witnesses to this event they say didn't happen.
Anybody can say anything. That's not compelling evidence.
Yeah, like they can say they went to the moon, present some stop motion animation and pictures of photorealistic images of the moon filmed on dollies, and then say that they went. There's no actual evidence they went to the moon, and then later they can confess to having not gone to the moon, specifically in the case of Buzz Aldrin. Is that not enough for you? Where's your discernment? Bloody hell, man. What do you need? Him to sit on your face and say, I didn't go to the moon, mate? Is that what you need? And even then, he'd say, oh, well, if we were at a ball game and you were sat on my face telling me we were losing when we were winning, what do you need?
And it doesn't...
If we flip it around and have Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong stating clearly on television that we definitely went, would he be using that as evidence for his side?
No.
It's the same standard.
Yeah, well, he would. He'd be saying, we have these men on video, on television, live broadcasts, stating that they definitely went. And you're saying that they're liars. That's what he'd say to you.
Yeah, that's
he'd say, how come you're claiming they're liars?
He's doing that because that's the straw man standard that he's holding against us, or the people in this regard. It's not us, it's people who deny the moon landings. You know, we deny the space vacuum journey, but regardless, that's what he's up against. So he's up against those individuals, and he's saying their argument would be to say, NASA say it, therefore it's wrong. So by a completely reasonable standard, me saying, NASA say it, therefore it's right, other than the fact that the people who went say they didn't do it. So we'll just overcome that little problem even in this crappy straw man I've just burnt. It still fails based on the fact that, in this instance, the people who said they did it are also saying they didn't do it. That's a bit awkward, but we'll get around it thus. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but if they were saying the opposite, if they were saying they did do it and were very vocal and public about it, he'd be using that as part of his evidence. But because they're saying they didn't go and they're alluding to not going and being very, I forget it, I can't remember the word I'm looking for, but they're alluding to not going. He's trying to whitewash that away. You can't whitewash that away.
He's holding up one standard and then defying it immediately afterwards. So he's basically gone through the motions of explaining to you that if you're watching TV and you're brainwashed with a certain standard that you can't adhere to, and then you go into a courtroom and they present you with all of the evidence to show something is true, and you go, based on the fact that they're showing me the evidence for this to be true, I'm going to reject it. How stupid would you be to reject evidence because there's so much of it, it must be because of a bloody plot twist. Okay, that's his premise. Move on 20 minutes. I'm being presented with evidence by the people who claim they did something that they specifically did not do it by their own admission. Why would you reject that? By your own bloody standards, you've said that you'd be ludicrous to ignore evidence when it's presented to you. The person and only witnesses to an event saying they didn't do it. You couldn't get any more clear evidence, and by his own standards, he should just accept that. But no, he's going to appeal to, if you're at a ball game with 80,000 other people, and there's definitely 8,000 people who've seen the moon landings, even though it's 0, including literally the people who say they did it. It's just nuts. He lays down his own standard, then defies it. It's just bonkers, man.
It doesn't matter if Neil Armstrong came out and said, no, we absolutely didn't do it. It doesn't matter.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Jeez.
It doesn't matter if the very person claiming to have done it says they didn't. It doesn't matter. They still did it. Wow.
Yeah,
He literally
good old
snatched his own
nuh-uh.
wig off. He literally just snatched his own wig off, put it back on, and then snatched it off again with that statement.
It's a classic nuh-uh move, you know?
It's not just nuh-uh. Nuh-uh would be to say, here's the evidence that they didn't go. Neil and Buzz saying they didn't go. And then he says nuh-uh. That's not what he's done. He's gone through explaining that when people are presented evidence because they've watched stuff on TV, and I've compared that to watching space on TV and at the movies. Okay, so we've got a perfect parallel. And then he goes on to say, you'd be foolish to reject that standard of evidence just because you're expecting a plot twist in a courtroom. Okay.
Yeah, but
so,
Nathan, you don't understand, because once you've said you went to the moon and everybody accepts that, you can't go back. It cannot have been fake all that time. That's ridiculous.
Too scary for him.
He went to the moon and now he's old and now he thinks he didn't go, but he has to have gone.
Ah, he hasn't rationalised it yet that way. But you're okay, Alwyn. Alwyn's saying that because Buzz is old, it could be a rationale that this guy employs. The notion that they've gone bonkers and can't remember going and performing man's greatest achievement, even though it's literally the only thing they'll have ever been talked to about in the entirety of their living time on Earth. That will be the only thing anybody will have ever been interested in talking to him about ever, but somehow they've forgotten. Therefore nuts. Therefore they still went. That's his standard, according to Arwin.
Or here's another suggestion. Maybe it's this. Maybe, no offense, Arwin, maybe these guys are trekkers in Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica nut jobs who embrace and cannot let go of this fantasy. So therefore they would rather scrutinize and vilify poor Mr. Buzz Aldrin, who is in his right mind enough to get a 20-something-year-old woman pregnant and get married, but too crazy to say he'd have never been on the moon. Maybe that's what it is. These are just...
again. Person telling a story, there's any number of reasons why a person could be wrong about the story. What does the bulk of the evidence tell you? If you're a football fan and you realize that that Kansas City beat the Eagles, you wouldn't have a hard time believing the story because you've watched Kansas City play all year long.
And if you're a natural law fan and you know that entropic law would dictate that gas fills whatever availability of volume it has available to it, then it's not a stretch to understand implicitly that the sky is not a vacuum, and therefore they couldn't have travelled to the moon through a wardrobe because there isn't one. Narnia's not real, space isn't real, you can't travel through a second law of thermodynamics sky violation sky vacuum. It's not a stretch. I mean, only if you're a natural law fan. You don't have to be an eyewitness, you just have to know how gas behaves.
Right, and you know they're a good team.
What's most concerning about this whole thing to me is that this guy was actually a foreman on a jury.
He's a normie.
Wow.
That doesn't concern me in the slightest. He's a normie. Only the other day we went through Gwyneth Paltrow on the stand, and in spite of me being in favour of Gwyneth Paltrow, the fact that their pseudoscience biologist, my biomechanical biologist, or biomechanical physicist, or whatever he labelled himself as, quack pseudoscientist, was there to present up some maths of Newton to get the jury to buy Gwyneth Paltrow's story. Now, I completely believed her story anyway, but I still called it out as being bullshit pseudoscience that would have worked on the jury. Now, if this guy was on the jury, it'd be no different to any of the people who were on that jury that completely bought that pseudoscience hook, line and sinker. Wrong though it may have been, it was in support of a righteous cause. It doesn't make it right, in my view. But jury selection in this regard, this guy's just a normie. He'd have normie standards. Now, the fact that he can double speak his way around his cognitive pain when he's invested heavily in the moon landing isn't surprising. We see it all the time. It wouldn't affect my opinion of him as a normal gentleman on the street or interacting with him in business or just as a general person. I'd just expect him to be a normal guy.
And you've watched the Eagles play, and they're a good team. And you watch the two teams play, and they're both good teams. That's why it was so close, right? The result wouldn't be in doubt. And if I told you that I had somebody who told me, no, the Eagles actually won that game, you'd laugh me out of the room.
So if I told you that gas expands in all directions to fill whatever availability of volume it's got to fill, like the V in PV equals nRT, and you understood that gas fills a vacuum, it can be quite explosive in terms of the introduction of the gas pressure into that availability of volume when it happens. When you understand that, you'd understand implicitly that gas fills space. And then if I was to come back at you and say, no, gas goes down, it falls down, go boom boom like puddles and rain, you'd laugh me out of the room, wouldn't you? Being a natural law fan and all. You'd just laugh at the idea that gas falls from the sky when it's created at ground level and goes up and expands in entropic form to fill the volume. You'd laugh at gas go down, go boom boom, to debunk the idea that you can travel through a sky vacuum to get to the moon. You'd just laugh, wouldn't you? Because gas doesn't behave like that. It fills space. And what do you know? They call the volume that you think they've travelled through, akin to Narnia, is called space. Like a space for gas to fill. Yeah, it's entropic law.
Right?
Yep, that's absolutely right. Yeah, he would laugh you out of the room if you said gas go down, go boom boom to try and account for a sky vacuum.
So, well, who is this guy? It's a guy I know. And by the way, the guy I know who said that the Eagles won the game knows a lot about football.
Oh,
he knows a lot about football.
Insider.
You know what ought to be mandatory? Freshman year, sophomore year, I can't remember. I took Philosophy 101 but in class, but is maybe the ultimate life skill, and we don't teach it anymore.
So I was thinking about this, and again, I don't want to make this so much about the moon landing as I want to make it about the phenomenon of me seeing this everywhere, where people are simply rejecting.
I just want to say that guy should go to critical thinking classes, not philosophy classes, because that's what he needs.
Yeah, some foundational logic.
And I'm one of the third.
Yes, Sarwan.
He might also need to read the book 1984 and have some really deep reflective internal study on that and realize how much of it he's already living.
He's just a conspiracy theorist who's expecting a plot twist at the end of 1984.
Conventional wisdom, because it's conventional wisdom. That kind of conservatism is about conventional wisdom and common sense, right? That's kind of what we're about. So
second law of thermodynamics, entropic law, you're all about that then, right? And just common sense, right? Gas doesn't form puddles. It expands to fill the availability of volume. It disperses throughout the availability of volume, the space. So, a rational conservative man like yourself would understand that gas fills space.
I see this and I start thinking, how would I put together arguments that other people would find convincing? And I thought the argument that somebody said that the Eagles won the Super Bowl is a great example of that.
Oh, that was your argument to convince me we went to the moon. What a fail. You thought wrong.
The guy's either lying or he's nuts.
Talk about football, man.
Yep.
They want to go away from the moon landing. Let's talk about football. Safer.
Really believes that the Super Bowl was won by the Eagles. Maybe he tuned out early. Who knows? But that's not.
I mean, it's not like we're talking about whether or not the moon landing happened. If I can talk about something completely different that's got tens of thousands of eyewitnesses, then it's almost comparable to two men that say they went to the moon that then later say they didn't go to the moon. It's exactly the same. I mean, I racked my brain for these arguments, and this was the best I could come up with. It's ace, right? No, definitely not. Useless, in fact. A straw man.
It's not the result, right?
Sorry, is that just a chuckle?
No, I was going to...
Yeah.
How's my sound? Hello?
Seems to be okay now.
Yeah, I went to my phone. You know what's interesting? At the beginning, it was everyone thinks NASA is lying. Then the only two eyewitnesses to the event that could ever be say, yeah, we're lying. And then he goes to a football game and says, see, with my football game straw man, we don't need to believe Buzz or Neil because there was so much evidence that the rocket went up that we can discount what they say. I mean, am I hearing this right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, he's actually stating that NASA are liars because those two work for NASA. So he's
And-
saying the very thing he labeled other people with.
Isn't
And
it funny though? I tend to make that sports analogy, right? It's like this: we went to the moon. It's like the team thing, right? Well, look how many times this guy's brought up sports, right? It's the same thing. Like even if his favorite player, Buzz Aldrin, was like, "Nah, I didn't play that game," like Nathan was saying, but he's not. He's still not going to believe him because the story has become so embedded in them, and the brainwashing is so great that he won't. Like they'll all three of them, Michael Collins, Buzz Aldrin, and Neil could sit there. I mean, I know Neil's passed already, but they could all sit there and say, absolutely, we did not go, and people will still believe they went.
No, they have to have gone. I did a 4-part documentary. It was my best work. You have to have gone. That was my best work.
I'm finding myself filled with a sense of real despair when I see how flimsy the arguments that they're putting forward are.
Stop projecting.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you mean
Damn
the straw man that people say we didn't go to the moon simply because NASA say we did, in spite of the fact that the men who say they did say they didn't? That's the argument. Because even that, if you're saying that's a flimsy argument, because that would be the argument to say NASA say Neil deGrasse, and I keep saying Neil deGrasse Tyson, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin specifically say they didn't go to the moon. So you're even lying about the false straw man argument you proposed you were taking apart from these people that was apparently even used in other forums. But yet now you've disclosed that those people you said made the argument that NASA simply saying they went means they didn't, are actually saying specifically NASA say they didn't go, making you a liar, not just a straw man burner, but a liar. So when you misrepresented what people told you as being NASA say they did go, therefore they didn't, you actually meant NASA say they didn't go. Why not just represent the argument for what it is? Two men from NASA, the only witnesses, not 80,000 people at a ball game, say they didn't go. Not they say they did and therefore they're lying and therefore they obviously didn't. Yeah, why not? Why lie? Why didn't you come out with it originally? Yeah, the argument I get presented with is literally the men that say they went say they didn't go. If you'd have come out with that, it would have seemed devastating, right? So better package it up in some ball game and then later say, well, even though I say the argument is people say that NASA say we went, therefore we didn't. Actually, NASA say we didn't go, therefore we did. Perfect logic.
Who took the picture of Neil coming down the ladder? That's it. That's what. That's
I've never
what
heard
got?
that one.
No, but that's what you've got.
It was the Japanese.
No, we've got the second law of thermodynamics: gas expansion into space. Space would be a space for gas to fill, and we'd be dead. Not who took the picture. Maybe in 2015. Come on, Brian.
And the words of the man who came down the ladder stating that he didn't go.
Yeah.
And the other guy stating he didn't go. What more do you want?
The lines aren't parallel. Well, okay. If let's have a drone. This is how I'm going to do the case. A drone looking down on parking lot. Yes, the lines in the parking lot are.
Sorry, let me get it straight. They say the lines of the lit stage they faked the moon landings with aren't parallel. So to overcome that, you're going to put a drone in a parking lot. I see. So let's just juxtapose that with Narnia. So you say Narnia's real. No, let's rephrase that. You say Narnia's fake. All right. You say Narnia's fake? Well, what I'm going to do is fly a drone in a parking lot. That'll prove that Narnia's real. Because they say that the Narnia set was stage lit. Now, if I can do something in a parking lot that... No, show us Narnia. Why not go up and show us the drone on the moon, traversing the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum akin to traversing a wardrobe? Just show us going through the wardrobe. Just show us a sky vacuum without gas filling it. Oh, what's that? You can't? It defies natural law to show gas pressure without a container? Yeah, that's because you need containment. Making the law of nature, known as entropy, be the debunking factor for your moon landing. Not pictures. Yeah, you're about 8 years out of date in that regard, my friend. This video was made 3 days ago. 3 days ago. You think the best we've got is, oh, did they take the pictures? No, my friend, we're very much ahead of that.
Parallel, yes? Okay, now fly the drone down to eye level. Are the lines
on the moon?
Parallel now? No, the lines are diverging now because that's what parallax is, right? This kind of...
All right, diverging, it seems like this claim with the heliocentric attachment would come with some sort of perspective claim to overcome the, shadows on the moon? See, perspective is a very big problem if you're a globe believer, my friend. It doesn't get included in heliocentric modelling. Maybe you didn't know that, but yet you're going to use perspective, something we would absolutely annihilate your globe belief with, to debunk the moon landing fakery claims. All right, well, isn't that interesting? Because as a globe believer, perspective's not real, my friend. What is it, flurfspective? Debunking these moon landing fakers? Is that what it is, flurfspective?
Thing. So it's not, I'm not trying to argue the case for the moon landing here.
You should be. You better damn well get on with it, because you haven't offered a single argument that would present me with any facts that we've travelled through a sky vacuum to get to a rock that's actually a light in the sky. No, my friend, and the two people that said they did say they didn't. In spite of your burning a straw man a lie that we said that they say they do, and therefore they didn't. Bloody liar.
I'm hoping I get a chance to do that later. What I'm arguing is that people are starting to lose their minds.
Is that the best you can do? You don't understand? You're losing your mind? That's the best you've got. Projecting, my friend, as you shift uncomfortably in your chair. No, I'm not losing my mind, my friend. I understand entropy. And that debunks the moon landings. End of my argument. Off I go. No concern. No losing my mind. No losing the plot. No stress. No concerns with anything at all. I already know the government's lying. That's it. For you, that's stressful. You're losing your mind as a consequence of this, my friend.
And they're starting to...
Nathan, that's very clear, because he said he's not trying to prove the moon landing because his two chief eyewitnesses say they weren't there, so that's why he's not trying to prove the moon landing. He's lost his only two people. This cognitive dissonance is so strong that this guy is known for critical thinking and for common sense. And look how low he fell. He can't even do it because he made a documentary. He has to believe it was there, even when the two chief actors, witnesses in this documentary say they didn't go.
They're starting to cling to the flimsiest of evidence in order to fulfill an emotional need. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, right?
Projecting.
Hang on.
Projection. How many times
again.
does that have to be said? Oh my God.
It's literally the same thing that just happened. I took my headphones out for like 4 minutes. I put them back in, and the first thing I hear him talking about is emotion. It's hilarious.
I don't have an emotional need to believe that the moon landing happened. If the evidence was compelling that it didn't, then I would say it didn't.
Okay, second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum, as you shift uncomfortably. And tell the people that if you had an emotional need for it, yeah, you do. Yeah, we're all laughing at you for it. It's so sad. I mean, yesterday I was talking about the difference between globe believers, flat earthers, and anti-flat earthers. And I was saying that we're sitting pretty. We're very poor. Yeah, I've got to put my hand out and e-beg. And yeah, people will use a rebuttal of you're poor or call me an e-beggar. But ultimately, I sleep really well. I don't concern myself with this. But look at it's written all over this guy's face, right? Now, this is a guy in transition, right? He's a guy that was formerly just a normal globe believer. That's what I described him as earlier, right? When I objected to someone saying you wouldn't want him on your jury. I say, no, I'd have him on my jury. If I'd done something wrong, he's just a normal guy, right? But he's on the slope. He's right teeter-tottering on the edge of flat earth. Basically, he's about to roll down the hill and become an anti-flat earther. And what's waiting for him at the bottom? Because he's not going to become a flat earther and realise the moon landing's a fake at the end of that falling down the hill process. That he's terrified looking into the abyss at the moment. I can see it written all over his face. This is like, John, refracted curvature, at the point before the black swan. Then the black swan comes along and you look over the precipice and go, oh my God, look down there. It's absolutely huge. and then you fall off, roll down. Well, that look of terror, that's the look on this guy's face, right? Yeah, and that's all he's going to have facing him for the rest of his natural-born life if he becomes an anti-flat earther, because there's nothing but pain and suffering waiting for you. I mean, you might get wealth and riches. The devil's there to tempt you with all of those things as a globe-believing muppet in self-delusion, aka anti-flat earther. Yeah? In other words, you'll get propped up to the top of the lists, you might make a decent whack in ad revenue, but you won't sleep very well. And you'll project the notion of all of the governments being wrong and how everybody else is saying that's the case. No, that's your fear. That's you. That's your sleepless nights you're projecting out, my friend. Yeah?
But there's something that is driving this that is not rational. It's not based on science. It's just an emotional, visceral hatred of a system that is spilling over into everything, and it's got me deeply concerned. I didn't know.
Again, it's projecting.
Projection.
Yeah. He's concerned with his visceral fear for the lying scum government that he'd have to accept as being a lying scum government if this turns out to be true. And it's very concerning to him. This is even better than Cats. Oh, Cats, you lucky bastard. This might replace you as an example. You never know.
If you guys,
I think it should. Just off of all the emotion that this. Sorry, Brian. Just real quick. Just off all the emotion this guy's been displaying this entire time, I think he should replace Cats as the poster child for feelings. I think that's a good move.
Bill, it's beclowning the movement. I mean, and that's the problem. It's like when you see people who would otherwise find agreement with you philosophically or ideologically or even theologically, and now they're often in raving about saying this, and it's like, well, did wake more tenuous.
Is it just me, or is Yes Men co-hosts just got nothing but word salad, both of them?
What Scott was just saying, it's harder to beclown the left for being disassociated from reality because that is the base of leftism. There aren't any. Conservatism is
because the number of people who believe that the Earth is flat is increasing on a daily basis, and there's no amount of evidence that will convince them otherwise.
Here's first statement: the number of flat earthers is increasing on a daily basis. Sorry, did I read several chat comments recently? Maybe it was even today that this subject's dying. Did I? I'm sure I read that somewhere. What about you, Chocolate? You ever read those comments?
Oh yeah, I was reading that in the chats like 7-8 years ago.
Amazing, isn't it? Here we are, 8 years later, we're being told that it's growing daily. What do you know?
You can show
I just want to let you know, Oakley, that I'm on to it.
Brian, get him.
Yeah, he's playing the video before I even get a chance to talk.
I know.
That's why he can't be accused of playing it before the end of me speaking.
This is very Father Ted. There's a character in Father Ted that stands by a gate, and whenever Father Ted walks past, she leans in close and goes, "I know what you're up to."
What it sounded like he said was,
I'm watching you, Oakley. I'm watching you.
Yeah, I'm on to him.
It's Monsters.
What it sounded like he said was,
that's Monsters Inc. I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
What minute mark is this in the video?
24:55.
And he just brought up flat Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did he set the table with? His documentary, how people aren't believing his work is real, all the emotions. And then here, you know why I'm really concerned? Because every day people are believing flat Earth.
Them photos of the Earth from space. You can show them a series of photos from the Earth from space. You can
from the same second law of thermodynamics violation that we used to debunk the moon landing. That space, the space the gas would fill, entropic law, space, volume. Yeah, that's where gas would fill. We'd all be dead. So no, definitely not pictures from space. 3 days ago, this was claimed.
You can show them pictures from either high altitude balloon or something that shows the curvature of the Earth.
Well, on TV and at the cinema. Yeah. Pictures. So earlier, the standard laid down was you only get the media to go by. Oh, what dumbos when they only go, where's their discernment? But we've got pictures from Narnia. We've got pictures of Aslan from Narnia.
Continuity error. This guy might want to go have a talk with Neil Smoking the Grass Tyson. Just saying.
Well, maybe he wanted to have a talk to Dwayne Kellum, who done over 24 high-altitude balloon demonstrations. And there was no curve of any Earth in any of them. 24.
Will not believe it. And if you're one of those people that believe that the moon landing didn't happen, but you still believe the Earth is round, then I have to ask you, what is the difference in the level of evidence? Because there are people out there making compelling cases for why the Earth is flat and providing all kind of blockers proving that it can't possibly be round. Because if it were round, why don't people fall off the bottom of the Earth?
Oh my God!
Wow,
he thought it was compelling. Now.
It's almost
now
like
it's compelling.
It's almost like it's 2015, and you can just serve the feast of nonsense garbage straight from the table into people's faces. As a globe believer, is that what this is? 2015? No, we don't assert that we're in a sky vacuum on a pizza pie with an edge to fall over. But you, as a globe believer, have an edge. Were you unaware of your edge for boats to fall over on a globe? You think the horizon is a hill? The boats fall over. Yeah, that's right. It's you with that claim, not me. I am a flat earther. I can say what I believe in because I am that thing. So when I say no, that's the Flat Earth Society. You know what you saw on the telly and that? Yeah, the propaganda that you believe because you're dumb and you've got no discernment. That's not me. But I can tell you as a flat earther that we don't accept pizza pie in a sky vacuum because the sky's not a vacuum. And we couldn't assert where we haven't been, that's the edge in that model. We could also tell you that the model, if it's got latitude lines on it, has come from elevation angle measurements to Polaris, just like all the globes with those grid lines on them. So your sphere came from a flat earth. We can tell you all of those things as a flat earther. We wouldn't tell you about the straw man feast of nonsense garbage you just spewed out 3 days ago, like it's 2015, and you're at the table, feast of nonsense. So I was wrong. This guy's not at the top of the hill. He's at the bottom. Just starting to feast on the feast of nonsense, are we, my friend? Oh, how delicious that sounds. How well did it come out? Yeah? When you regurgitated and vomited it up to a flat earther, did it go down as well as it came back up? Yeah? Yeah. It's terrifying down here at the bottom of the valley, isn't it, with all us flat earthers having rolled down that hill? So I take it all back. I'll say it once more. This is not a normie. This is an anti-flat earther in the pain I described yesterday. Eh? And he's that at the table of the feast of nonsense, scoffing it all down, hoping it's 2015 and regurgitating it will release some of the pain he's in. Like it didn't do 8 years ago for all the people still hanging around, not coming in here anymore. Yeah, enjoy your feast of nonsense, mate. You're at the bottom of the hill, and there's only 2 people down here. Yeah? There's you, with your anti-flat earth hate speech and rhetoric and pain and fear, and me, sleeping like a baby.
It doesn't matter if I tell you why. If you
Nathan.
Yes.
1 second, Nathan.
Yeah, go, Brian. I'll go after you.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make I'm calling him out on his BS when he says high altitude balloon. Because when Mr. Sensible did his Mage 2, I can't remember about Mage 1, but Mage 2, the video he put out as the main video was the uncorrected video. So it was an uncorrected video. There was no, although you can't correct the lens distortion out of it ever, it was an uncorrected video. His corrected video was linked in the description, right? So he put that out. Why would he put out the uncorrected one? To make it look more curvy. So I'm calling BS on this guy. I reckon this guy has a photo, possibly from a video like that, the uncorrected one, and he's showing this around as being some kind of proof of curve from my altitude. Or he has never seen any of this, and he's just making a claim based on absolutely nothing. Which is, if he's an anti-flat earther, especially if he's new at it, then he is likely to be doing that.
He's caught in the middle. He's caught in the middle because he said a few minutes ago, hey, if someone shows me evidence, well, then I'll go with the evidence. And then he ends it and says, you know, these flat earthers are showing compelling evidence. Well, why aren't you going with it? I mean, this is so much pain for this guy because he's so invested because of the documentary that he has to throw his two chief witnesses under the bus to keep his documentary thing going.
What you're looking at now is the look of a brand new anti-flat earther. This is what you get when you go from normie walking around the matrix, blissfully unaware, to having fallen down the hill. And when you get there, you're not full of wonderment, going, oh my God, I wonder what the sky is then. Well, why is it blue? Oh, well, maybe I'll be the one to find out. How exciting. That's not his attitude. He's got there and gone, oh my God, it means the whole world's a lie. Oh my God, what am I going to do? No, it's everybody else. They're all nuts. They're all going mad. That's what he's doing. This is what a new anti-flat earther goes through.
Yeah, he's showing that he can't handle it at all. Like his fear of people, like that's why it's called Make It Stop, because the fear of people now denying that we went to the moon, right? He's showing so much fear off of that he's in no way ready to deal with flat Earth. So now he's making the appeal to the people who actually still believe they live on a globe, but don't believe that they went to the moon. Now it's kind of like he's making an appeal to them. Like, what's wrong, guys? Like, what's your evidence that we didn't go to the moon? Because you still believe it's round, so you could still be on our side, guys. Right? He's trying to rally the troops. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Chocolate, it's worse than that. What's happening?
It's worse than that.
No, it is. It's really worse than that. What's happening is that when this whole thing is, he's projecting everything. He's double speaking. He's having two positions. The whole thing's falling apart. If this thing goes down the way of flat Earth and we didn't go to the moon, it's pride. He can't go against his pride right now because he's so heavily invested with his documentary. Instead of looking at the evidence and saying, you know what, guys, I never did look at the evidence. I actually just went in to do a documentary, assuming everything NASA said and the astronauts did was true. But you know what I found out with these compelling evidences from the flat Earth? And you know what? The astronauts that I did my story about, they even confessed they didn't go. But you know what? I can't go there. I got too much pride.
Well, it's actually worse than that because he's trying to cushion the fall. If you listen to his wording, he's saying there's people out there, whether it be flat or globe, who don't believe in the moon landings. And there's people out there who believe the Earth is not a globe and believe it's flat. He's using the word believe a lot because that's all he has. So he has to believe, right, the operative word, that other people only have a belief in opposition to his belief. He can't take on board that Brian's logic, has an absolute knowing that they didn't go to any moon on any space mission. And I have an absolute knowing the Earth is not a globe, and an absolute knowing that it is a horizontal plane and a stationary one and enclosed. I know that. There are things I know. I don't have to have a belief about it. But he only has belief because that's all he can have. He can't have a knowing. So he has to cushion the fall by stating that other people who oppose his belief also only have a belief when they don't. That's the most scary part for him.
If you are so determined to be on the cutting edge of arcane knowledge, or you're so determined to show how much smarter you are than the sheep, or whatever is driving it, right? If we live in the 23rd century where the number of people who believe the Earth is flat is increasing on a daily basis in Western societies, then we're in real trouble.
Just say it. Everyone say projection all at once.
Projection.
Right? Because we're not talking about politics anymore. Now we're talking about a mass psychosis event. Now we're talking about a series of emotional stimuli that have occurred to make normally sensible
Here
people.
we go again.
He never stopped projecting. I mean, since I said that first time, scattergunning a projection, it's been one nonstop projection, one woven into the other nonstop. He never stopped doing it.
It's his psychosis that he's talking about.
Yeah.
It sounds like he
projection machine.
literally sounds like he's saying,
Just
like,
listen
everybody's waking up,
stop
I'll be
once
out of a
again.
job.
Just one sec.
Sorry.
Listen to how 10th man just said that. Just repeat that 10th, please.
It's his psychosis that he's addressing.
Perfect. I was going to say before he started saying it, listen to the words that he's saying, but rather than listening to him say they or flat earthers, and just hear it as I, because that's what he's really talking about. That's what we mean when we say projection. He's really talking about he and his feelings on this subject matter. And when he's talking about the psychosis, exactly as 10th man says, he's talking about him and his mental anguish, his mental fear. That's what's actually being detailed here. Now, cognitively, most people can't cope with that. They have to expel it. And the way that you expel it is to project it onto your opponent. It's them who are mentally afflicted by this. It's them that are suffering the mental pain of this. It's them who are delusional over this. No, you've had to invent a story where we're going to just use we, because it's now flat earthers as well, are saying that the moon landings were faked because NASA said they did go. That's the standard he laid down. No, you've got to do mental gymnastics and acrobatics to make that story make sense to you, to offer it up as an argument, because you later on went through the exact examples of how people told you that the men who claimed to went to the moon said they didn't. So we had to lie. You're the one doing this, my friend. It's you you're talking about, not us.
What I was going to say was, it sounds like he's literally saying, oh man, if too many people wake up, I'm going to be out of a job.
Believe nutty things. And this is something that concerns me very, very deeply. And the thing that I'm most...
There it is. That's it. Right at the end, the honesty comes out. It concerns him very deeply. So why does he just describe the mental anguish of his opponent? Because that was all about him. And now he's disclaiming it.
concerned about is for a significant number of people, it's not a question of evidence. There is no evidence. There's no amount of evidence that will convince them otherwise, because this isn't about evidence. This is about a core emotional, I don't want to say a belief so much as
projection.
Yes, again, so it's not about evidence. Yeah, it is. For us, it is about evidence very specifically. It's about the evidence that disproves you've got a moon landing to take place in a second law of thermodynamics, evidenced by a natural law. Okay, that is evidence-based. For you, it's about the mental gymnastics and the anguish and the lies and the deceit that you might have to face. This is all about him.
Nathan, he just, again, does it. It's amazing. I mean, we've all called it or when everybody he's projecting, but he just said flat Earth is growing every day and they're presenting compelling evidence. And now he says there is no evidence. There isn't any amount of evidence. And he's scared.
I've got to be honest, when I hear flat Earth is growing every day, and I know it's true, it annoys me greatly that the people who suckle at that teat financially aren't us. That does piss me off, I've got to be honest.
Well, we are the nutty types who are presenting compelling arguments, according to this guy. How could our arguments be compelling if they're nutty?
There's a song, Our Day Will Come. And that title is perfect for your last statement, Nathan. Our day will come. We're not at the Feast of Nonsense. We could go to 2015, show a bunch of things and get the, reaction that those things gave initially. Or we can be students of this and go find the killing destroying arguments that are so refined that stop every fallacious argument, begging the question, just chop them off at the knee so we don't even go there for 2 hours in circles. And that's what this show is. So our day will come. We just got to stay true to it.
Need.
I'm watching you, Brian. You interrupted
Yeah.
that video, though.
You better watch me. Yeah, because I'm watching you, right? And you're trying to place me as some kind of a crazy character in some comedy sketch show is not going to solve it.
Nathan, can you drop and rejoin, please?
Why am I making that horrible sound in which one?
No sound on Discord.
Okay.
You need to get something else in the mail then if you're still not coming through in Discord.
First world problems. We'll get it sorted. Check. No, you're right. I'm not coming through on Discord. That's unusual. Check. Can you just go back into live stream, Righteous, and see if I work in there? Check.
I'm in there.
No, live stream.
Gotcha.
Discord live stream. Can you hear me? Check.
No, you're not even lighting up.
No, I can't see myself like that. That's weird. So I've had an issue with Discord. Okay, I'll just close it down and see if I can reload it. It was working earlier though, right?
Yeah, it just got the news that the audio cut out now.
Okay, it occasionally happens when we move rooms, so I'll have a look.
Okay.
That's the word, a need. Yeah. Just something else to put on your plate to worry about, I guess. But nevertheless,
I refuse.
There are, well, yeah, I got to solve this whole issue by saying don't read the YouTube comments ever.
Oh, by the way, the YouTube comments that are about to happen that because you slipped up. You slipped up and you revealed that we live in the 23rd century. Let me just make it clear right now.
Did I say 23rd century? I also got the Super Bowl.
You let everybody know where we're really broadcasting.
I thought I heard 21st.
You also went and told everybody that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin clearly said that they didn't go to the moon. And that came from you guys, not us.
And treated them like liars.
Yep. After saying that you're a hero. Why wouldn't you believe your hero? If he's your hero, if these guys are your heroes, right? Why wouldn't you believe the words coming out of their mouth?
Well,
Are
I
you
will.
feeling all right?
Sorry.
That football analogy was so poor. It's. Let me give you the better version. I think Neil Armstrong is the quarterback, and Buzz Aldrin is the backup quarterback. And they're your best friends, so you meet them at the pub afterwards, and they say, "Yeah, we lost the game. It was terrible." Yeah, but the TV said you won.
Yeah, so Discord's just doing nutty stuff. It just keeps chucking me out and then reconnecting and then checking and then reconnecting and then checking and then saying disconnected. So I don't know if there's an issue at my end with Discord. It seems like it's giving sound to them at the moment. But I would imagine we're probably dropping out and being really irritating to them because now it's saying disconnected. I don't know.
Quick, reposition satellites.
We've only got a couple of minutes left on the video, so should we just round out? Because hopefully, normally with Discord, when things like this happen, it just resolves itself the next day.
Let's finish it, just in case there's something there.
He just said he just mentioned the word worry. He said there's something else for you to worry about because he's worried.
Well, who knows?
It's
I'll believe what I want to
2023,
believe.
Right.
Yes.
So 2023, and we label all of our shows 0, 1, 14, 23. Okay. I've slipped up, and so I've therefore revealed that the 12 Saturn V's that we launched in front of millions and millions of people.
Eyewitnesses that launched the rocket, they saw the rocket get launched. They didn't see it going into the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum.
That's my point.
That's not relevant to compared to the fact that he got the year of the Super Bowl champs wrong.
It's awesome. Don't you love the internet?
I don't.
He looks really stressed. He's like compressing his forehead because he's so stressed about this.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore. My God.
Did he
Does
just say I don't want to live on this planet anymore?
Yeah, he did.
Does
Poor
he look
guy.
a bit like McToon when he was trying to explain how a sextant works on a flat Earth? Because
Yeah.
McToon was looking really stressed then too.
You take an angle on the flat Earth. Yeah, you're feeding back, by the way, Arwin. That's it. That's the end of the video. There's like 12 seconds.
I don't
left.
want to live on this planet. Don't worry, you're not.
No, he isn't.
Word.
Yeah.
That's what he's worried about. That's the very thing he's worried about. He stated it. He said there's another thing to worry about, because he's worried that he won't be living on this planet any longer. Because that's what it would mean. If it's not a planet, he won't be living on it.
Right until tomorrow when we do the Hasselblad camera from the Hasselblad camera expert. And then this is 2015 for sure. He's going to say, dang it, my whole argument about the selfie can't even be used now.
You mean the guy that built the camera that said that it wouldn't be able to work where they said it was going to work, but they don't pay him no mind? Even though his name's on the freaking camera?
Not the guy who built the camera, but the guy who is an expert in the usage of the camera, goes through every part of the camera and says, look, all I could tell you, it wasn't from the moon, impossible. And so the guy who knows about the camera that this guy said had a little pocket door on the lamp that popped open and took the picture couldn't work there, is what this guy's going to say tomorrow.
Which guy? The same guy?
No, it's a different video.
I was going to say, please, I can't do another video with this guy.
No, this guy's going to go to the hospital after tomorrow's video because the very thing he held up as proof is going to be taken away after he said the astronauts who were in his documentary told him they never went either. I mean, what more does a guy need?
Heck. I think I've sorted Discord out. We'll see. Hopefully Discord's now working and you can hear me properly. Can you just say hello if you can hear me in Discord? Oh no, it's still jumping me out again. Crap. That's probably going to be my cue to end this show. Okay, with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hitting me up on GoFundMe and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!